so far, but I can't lose this.
With the Buttkicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker, the future is feeling.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Buttkicker, are ready to race.
The Lionheart IndyCar Series has landed in the Action City for a double-point, adrenaline-filled season finale. The championship has already been decided, with the Lionheart King Adam Blocker clinching his 4th consecutive title with a win on the streets of Detroit a couple of weeks ago. With Blocker missing this race with real-world duties in the NTT IndyCar Series, the focus will be on who can take home the final win of the season in an action-packed race here in Fontana. This is the Auto Club Speedway, and this is the SimXperience Race for the Championship. Hello and welcome back to racespottv for coverage of the round 22, of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15 for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, delighted to be joined alongside in the special three-man comms booth by Justin Prince and Lorenzo Bonder as we get set for 500 miles of racing into the night here in the Golden State. You can follow along with live timing and scoring powered by our partners at ATVO by heading to racespot.tv/Indy to follow along with your favorite team and drivers. Let's dive straight into our butt kicker pre-race show. And Justin, before we do that, let's just talk about what an incredible run we've had so far. 22 races. We started back in March. Now in December, it comes to an end. Double points. Adam Blocker's not here. In what's been a dominant season for Blocker, it's finally an opportunity for someone else to take the victory in a Triple Crown event.
Yes, indeed it is. But keep in mind, it's been a phenomenal campaign. You have to give credit to Adam Blocker because he was able to secure the championship with a strong run last round. Yes, for the driver's side. The team side, private label, Team Hype, they've been very consistent. But for many drivers, this could be some of their best opportunities to say, you keep an eye on me for 2022 action. Because for some of them, you'll see some making their first starts in series history. For others, you'll be seeing competitors looking to try and break through and get a Triple Crown victory. So there's the chance for potential history tonight, but also the chance for some drivers to start their own legacy for the future.
Absolutely. And Lorenzo, glad you're joining us here tonight. How excited about you to wrap up this Lionheart IndyCar Series here today. It's been an incredible journey. It's crazy to think that 22 races, it's been an up and down roller coaster, but for Adam Blocker, averaging a podium over the course of this 2021 season.
Yeah, his pace has been tremendous from start to finish. I think I haven't seen somebody put up numbers like that since the inception of Lionheart IndyCar Series and Lionheart itself. And the schedule was very well balanced. You know, we have road tracks that challenge you from the lap 1 to the final lap. We had that at Detroit. It was a very clunky race, highly attrition. Now we go to Auto Club, highly attrition as well. It's a great way to finalize our season with 250 laps around the California State track.
Oh, it's a great track as well. A return to the Golden State for the first time since the second round of the campaign, back on the streets of Long Beach in what was an action-packed race in and of itself. Here's a look then at your driver standings presented by buttkicker. The championship is in the bag for Adam Blocker. 1,165 points, 122 clear of Connor Harrington. These do include, by the way, the drop weeks. There are multiple weeks that get dropped. The lowest points that you score over the course of the 22 races. Maximum points that you can get from this individual race without the bonus points is 120. Double points, so 60 increases to 120, but plenty of things to keep your eye on, including just in a battle for third on back, where hypothetically, it's anyone's game with 4 drivers very much in contention.
Henry Bennett's been very consistent the past few weeks, especially with some of the speed and some of the improvement when it comes to keeping himself clean. Andrew Kinsella, he's got good history when it comes to Auto Club Speedway, to say at the very least. He could be someone to keep an eye on, to have a chance to rip away that spot from Henry Bennett. But then you have Ryan Otis, who, of course, won the Retro Series Championship a little while ago, but now has been improving as well when it comes to this Dallara IR18. He started off very slow, but the road courses have been a big part of why he's been up here. It's just been a matter of, can he handle aero wash? That's been his Achilles heel this season.
And with that said, you can see it's a pretty strong rookie class. It's a bit weird still to be talking about the likes of Henry Bennett and Jason Brophy in terms of rookies, but Bennett has one hand on this rookie championship presented by buttkicker. A good performance here would lock him in as the rookie of the year. For Jason Brophy, he's being chased down by the likes of Mike Razmas, Lionel Kalisto, Aaron Morgan's been up and down. Matt Taylor missed out on a championship in the Lionheart Speedway Series, still has the chance to become a champion in the Lionheart Retro Series when they head to Fontana for their season finale in a week or so's time. Here's a look at the team standings presented by HyperX, and consistency, Lorenzo. That's what's been the name of the game for private label Team Hype. The thing that you have to wonder, though, if Adam Blocker and Adrenaline Motorsports had kind of thought through the way they lined up their teams, if maybe he had been partnered up with some other drivers, maybe it would have been a different story. By himself, representing Adrenaline Powerside, Adam Blocker sits 7th in these team standings.
Which is insane to think about, you know, his consistency and the fact he was basically top 3 or majority of the top 3 for this entirety of the championship basically speaks for itself. Of course, not saying the Adrenaline Motorsports Red hasn't been bad, but I think the last few races that have put him back on the back burner in comparison to private label Team Hype, team that has a lot of pedigree in the Indy cars, and they all truly deserve that championship spot, even though Connor Harrington what he really wanted was the P1 in the driver's standings.
Oh, absolutely. And in any other season, Harrington has had a season worthy of a championship. It just so happens that Adam Blocker has been that dominant so far in 2021. But with that said, let's dive into your series details presented by -273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable polyspandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, -273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on -273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit -273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code -273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Justin, we're racing the Dallara IR18, the newest incarnation of American open wheel racing. It's a custom-fixed setup built by RaceSpott's own Andrew Kinsella with in-car adjustments, front and rear ARBs, and of course the weight jacker that is so crucial to maintaining the balance of the car versus tight versus loose, making sure as well that you give yourself the right aerodynamic balance at the right point in time. Fighting for just under $9,000 in cash and prizes, but crucially, this is the final step on the Triple Crown. Adam Blocker won both at Indianapolis and at Michigan. Because he's not here today, he doesn't have a chance to set more Lionheart history and become the first driver to win all 3 Triple Crown events in a calendar year.
As talked about, it's the weighing of Triple Crown for a prestigious iRacing series, having a job. So you can understand that logic. But in turn, there is the potential for a lot of drivers to show great speed. We've seen in some of the big tracks this season how close some of the racing has been and how important timing up, especially the runs on the final laps down that front straightaway could be. It could be a chance to solidify yourself in history as a Lionheart Triple Crown winner. Now, it's not going to be easy to say the very least, though, as we've seen throughout the racing so far at Auto Club Speedway, as well as at tracks like Michigan in similar size. Aero wash will be big tonight. These drivers will be very intricate in terms of their tool usage, but also expect multiple lines possibly to come into play, because this is one of those tracks where the top group can be potentially used if you do it right. The middle line could also be very pivotal in the midst of the pack, but if you choose the right lanes, you put yourself in a good spot. If you have a wrestling match for, say, 5th, you may allow everyone else to pull away. Keeping that draft will also be critical tonight, even with the tools.
And that leads nicely into our event details. A 9th consecutive trip to the Action City for the Lionheart IndyCar Series finale. Pole has only entered HyperX victory lane twice, but only twice has the car that not led the most laps, not won here in the Golden State. Most lead changes, well, back-to-back, we've had 45 in Season 7 and Season 8. The DW12 has the smallest margin of victory. That was when Andrew Kinsella won by just under 300ths of a second. Andrew Kinsella is the defending race champion, just over 300ths of a second, the margin of victory this time last year. And Lorenzo, high banks, and a configuration of the Auto Club Speedway that is going to be consigned to the history books and to the iRacing service as well. No longer will it be a 2-mile super speedway. It will be a short track very soon into the real-world competition.
Yeah, because the track is owned by NASCAR, it will actually try to make it more into the NASCAR themes of races. I think it's supposed to be a half-a-mile race in comparison to 2.5 miles. The thing is going to be, the rest of the field is going to be built basically for infrastructures around the track. But this 2.5 mile track, that I think Justin said it perfectly. Morphing lanes, you can have something very interesting at the start of the race, then it kind of morphs into 2-line, maybe 3-liner as the race goes by. It's going to be a very interesting stints. I think the first 60 laps are going to be very interesting, how we're going to see the drivers take through it.
Well, the drivers are on track for qualifying, solo car qualifying. So drivers get the track all to themselves. 5 minutes on the board, 2 flying laps. Build your momentum, build the speed, and go as quickly as you can. 3 minutes are left on the clock as it runs right now. And Justin, you have some history about this track because of all the changes it's undergoing right now. More and more of the track is being closed to the public.
Yes, there's actually a drag strip when it comes to this facility that not many people would know too much about, but it does hold drag racing events, or did until this week. That is now officially closed and was one of the few strips in the area that was about a half a mile, quarter mile or so in terms of distance. Compare that to some of the air drag strips in the area like Irwindale's, that's around an eighth of a mile. You still have Pomona around the area, but the drag strip community and the drag racing community have now lost a facility with all the changes coming up to Auto Club Speedway in the future. Keep in mind as well, it's going to be interesting what happens with the racing school side of things, because the road course is used for a lot of the learning tools and abilities for drivers to learn how to race on a road course. That may be gone too potentially down the line. And on top of things, this is a track normally used for a lot of movie scenes and a lot of film sets. That may change too, so a lot could happen when it comes to not just the fact of a track moving from 2 Mile to a short track facility, but everything else around it is going to be affected.
Qualifying times coming in thick and fast. Andrew Kinsella in 4th, still out on track. He's just finished lap number 2. Currently on pole, the defending Lionheart Retro Series champion, Ryan Otis. Connor Harrington puts himself up into P5. Still waiting for the likes of Robert Malechka III to put in a lap time. Joshua Chin has got a slow lap time initially, but really thunders in one right as I say that. 3rd best now for the king of chins. Jason Brophy goes up to 2nd. Now waiting for Phil Krause as well. So many strong contenders here, Lorenzo, that in a race like this, pack racing, it's really hard to know who's actually going to end up victorious.
Yeah, it's gonna be so complicated to see who's gonna be victorious on this one. Just to let you guys know, the gap to 1 second. Well, Phil Krause is the guy actually above the 1 second. He's in 20th place now, 20th first place. But there's no one aside from him above the second. Everybody's under the second, and the gap from 1st to 4th is 19 hundredths of a second. So it is a really close qualifying. And I think gridding is going to be important for maybe the first few laps, how we dictate the pace in this race.
Phil Krause up to 12th, not where the Appleton, Wisconsin native would want to be. Here comes Robert Malechka III, being a revelation in both the Speedway Series and here in IndyCar competitions. 3 poles to his name after joining midway through the campaign Texas Motor Speedway, the last Triple Crown event, the Michigan International Speedway, as well as Twin Ring Motegi. Finally took an elusive victory. The race after that, short track racing on the Iowa Speedway, a 33.292, currently the benchmark for Robert Malechka III, working himself down the back straightaway for lap 2 as 30 seconds left in this qualifying session. Plenty of cars yet to set a qualifying lap time, including newly minted Lionheart Speedway Series champion Alexis Newsom, who took her first championship in the Lionheart Series last week. Newsom's gone up to 4th, for Malechka III to the bottom of the track, and it is not pole position, but it's 2nd. Henry Bennett has put down the marker. It's a 32.595 for pole position, Justin.
And Robert Malechka III, keep in mind, has been lightning quick right from the get-go throughout this season. It shouldn't be surprised to see him up front, but now it's the question, who wins for the final time this season?
Well, we'll go trackside for one final ride here in the Action City at the Auto Club Speedway for your SimXperience countdown to countdown to the championship, excuse me. Let's go trackside and take a look at our starting grid for round 22 in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. So Henry Bennett puts it on pole. It's only his 2nd pole position in his Lionheart career, but he's alongside the ever-quick Robert Malechka III. Ryan Otis, Jason Brophy, row number 2, while Alexis Newsom and Chris Fowler share row 3. Joshua Chin and Matt Taylor 7th and 8th positions, with Mike Rigney and Tyler Groff on the edge of the top 10, just 0.05 of a second splitting the top 10 cars. Adam Fraser misses out on 10th by 1,000th of a second. He'll be alongside defending race winner Andrew Kinsella for Adrenaline Motorsports Red. Connor Harrington in 13th alongside the Canadian Brian Carey, with the Muscle Man in 15th alongside Philip Kraus. Barrett Rolf's qualifying woes continue. He's down in 17th with Stefan Laukamp on the outside of row number 9. Brian Beard, Matt Houston complete the top 20 with Joe Branch, Luis Gonzalez Nunez 21st and 22nd. That's where you get to that 1/10 marker separating pole from the rest of the car. Scott Holmes and Aaron Morgan, row number 12. Tony Shaw and James Grahula 25th and 26th, while Samuel Ryman and Ricky Harden, the final lap times being set in this qualifying session. Mike Rasmas, and then we get to the rookies here today. Alexander Van der Sant, Matthias Kraus, Caleb Benzie, Bradley Sexton, all making their first Lionheart IndyCar Series career appearances. That was a look top to bottom at your butt kicker starting grid. The cars are getting lined up and ready to roll here in Fontana, so we'll go ahead and walk you through the featured onboards for today's racing. Brian Beard has the SimXperience onboard camera. SimXperience, makers of the AccuForce Pro V2 direct drive steering system. For more information, visit simexperience.com.
When it comes to the HyperX on board today, it's Andrew Kinsella who rides with it, the defending winner here at this racetrack. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Series debutant Bradley Sexton as the butt kicker on board. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com.
And the car knocks on board goes to one of the drivers fighting for third in the Drivers' Championship, Ryan Otis. Carnox, makers of the finest esports gaming chairs. We've got your back. Visit carnox.com.
And of course, we'll have onboard looks with every single car, the 33 cars lined up and ready to go. Quick predictions here. Lorenzo, let's start with you.
Oh, let me see. Who am I going to kill over here? Well, I'm actually going to predict Robert Miller. Let's get to do well right here. It's a really good speedway.
What about you, Justin?
Took the thought out of my mouth, at least, and out of my head. I think, though, based on how he's seen qualifying far out, wondering about Jason Brophy, he may have a strong shot. His best run of the qualifying sessions of the season.
Competition, commitment, excitement. This is the final race in the 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series. Pace car is off, field in control of Henry Bennett. We are racing in the Action City for the SimXperience Race for the championship. Bennett leads the field. Ryan Otis already down the inside of Robert Malechka III. Outside line didn't get the launch that they would have wanted as they thunder down the back straightaway. Justin looks clean on the start.
Very clean, in fact, so far, but it's the matter of which drivers were able to get themselves into a good rhythm early on. Remember, when it came to Speedway Series action, one bout of contact gave the top two a 1.5-second advantage, but Henry Bennett starts off with the first lead lap, but here comes Malechka III looking to control the tempo.
They were three abreast with Jason Brophy in the middle coming in towards turn one. The factory back driver has cycled to the lead of the race, and this is going to be a hectic race, Lorenzo. Survival is going to be crucial.
Survival is going to be crucial. I think right now in this first thing, it's kind of like going to be marking the other driver, trying to find the best lines in these first few laps. Maybe the first 5 laps are going to be crucial. Then after that, maybe fuel saving will come here into play, especially if you're in the middle of the pack. Go into mode 4, mode 5 from the engine. That might save you a lap and a half, depending on circumstances, and still be within the pack.
250 lap race. Fuel window between 36-37 laps. So we are looking at basically a guaranteed almost 6-stop race. Unless, and that's a big unless, cautions decide to play a big factor here. In terms of movers and shakers, not really much movement up through the field for the hard chargers so far across of Lionheart competition. Barrett Rolfe still stuck back in 16th position. Connor Harrington trying to make hay while the sun shines. He's up to 12th position, Justin.
Now, right now, Kraus up 3 positions. Connor Harrington didn't get the best of qualifying runs, still stuck in the 12th position. A couple others have picked up 2 spots. James Grahula 3 as well. This is not the easiest place to try and get a full-on pass with. Strategy is a big part of that, as well as how you enter the pits. But it's also so critical to make sure you have someone you can work with. If you have a big-time fight for too long, that can cost you, because the amount of side forces and how much both of you would have to check up in turn. The leaders are doing the right thing. Just swap draft. Keep it patient for now. It's a long race.
It is 500 miles, 3 races are that length. The rest of them anywhere from 200 to 300 miles on the ovals. Road courses tend to be about 125 miles, so very much one of the longest races of the year. Brian Carey, Adam Fraser squabbling for 14th position. For the Canadian, Brian Carey looking for some luck to go his way. Of course, I remember what happened in Indianapolis. I'm sure Brian Carey has tried to put that out of his mind, Lorenzo, when, well, what do you say? Turn 1, lap 1. He decided to lose his car and took out a number of cars with him.
Yeah, took out a few number of cars. Nearly happened as well in Detroit. Don't forget, he was actually the first ever victim when we raced at Detroit as well. Of course, it was a related incident. What happened at Indianapolis? I think he got a small contact with Joshua Chin going through lap 1, turn 1 and 2. But Brian Carey most definitely trying to get a good result for his team in the Adrenaline Motorsports Red team right now.
Connor Harrington dives down to give his teammate Phil Krause a little bit of the draft, but Krause isn't close enough to take advantage, doesn't have the momentum. Mike Rigney in the 00 pops to the outside of Connor Harrington, ripping about the fifth groove up the track, and that's one of the great things about a track like this is there are so many different lines. Harrington, though, slides up the track, cuts off the momentum of Mike Rigney. Kinsella has gotten past Tyler Groff. He's +4 from where he started, defending race winner. But on a track like this, Justin, it isn't necessarily about running a particular line. It's about being flexible with your lines, finding the clean air when it presents itself. Because if you're pinned down on the bottom and that's the only place you're comfortable, you're in for a really long night.
Yeah, especially if, say, someone else chooses the bottom right in front of you. Your aero wash forces you to have to lift off. Guess what? You'll have a parade of drivers looking past you along the high side. Here's the look from Andrew Kinsella, for example, with the HyperX on board. You see, he chooses middle because that's where not much of the traffic is right now. Many of the cars in front of him are preferring that upper groove. You need to be able to have that flexibility to make sure you get some clean air to the front wing to make sure you don't burn up the front tires.
Chris Fowler trying to challenge for the race lead, but as we look rearwards from Henry Bennett, it's side by side between Bennett and Fowler. Fowler not able to clear himself until just now. So new race leader, it is Chris Fowler, who's worked himself up 5 positions to the point of the field. Joshua Chin looking aggressive as well, diving to the inside of Ryan Otis and Robert Malechka III. He'll clear one, can he clear the second? Does he have the momentum? Doesn't look like it. But pretty clean start. The only thing that I'm interested to kind of see, Lorenzo, is only one car has been pretty conservative. That's Scott Holmes, who has basically dialed himself back to the tail end of this pack and doesn't really want to get mixed up with anything right now.
No, I think the safety over here is the number one issue around the track because the latest caution you can have is basically crash yourself out. It's so easy to crash over here, lose a rear end, or get the dirty air when you're coming out of turn number 2 and 4, especially out of number 2 during the final laps of the stint. Whenever your car wants to get a little bit more understeery than usual, and just find your stride. Another car that I think is being very conservative over here and needs to move up a few spots is Jason Brophy right now.
Brophy's still in 6th. There's almost 3 abreast. Otis will get past the pole position sitter, Henry Bennett, who has cycled himself down the field on board with the King of Chins in the top 5. Fowler and Malechka III still side by side up at the front of the field. And the sun is setting. By the time we finish, we will be well and truly into the night here at the Auto Club Speedway. Not going to do much for the weather necessarily, Justin, because it's 28 degrees in the air, 30 down on the track. And the way it tends to work here on iRacing is your track temperature never going to go below what the ambient temperature is.
Yes, indeed. Especially keep in mind with some of the humidity, there's not much of it today. Hence why the very close distance between air temp and track temperature, 15 degrees, or 15%, I should say, humidity. Air temp is currently 82 degrees Fahrenheit, 86 Fahrenheit track temperature. So fairly cool, but I'm not expecting that to be too much of a variety in terms of that difference. With some of the higher humidity totals, you may see it upwards of 10, 15 degrees. But much more tighter when it comes to those temperatures today because of that humidity total, as well as, of course, the sunlight.
Connor Harrington slips on past Andrew Kinsella, now working on Matt Taylor behind them. Alexis Newsom is down 6 positions into 11th as we have 12 laps in the books. Next time around it will be 13 as Harrington will wash up the track and try and pinch Matt Taylor. He'll be followed around the outside by Andrew Kinsella, so from trying to make the move, now trying to defend from the move. This Connor Harrington doesn't look as though he'll concede just yet, really running up high, just trying to make sure that Kinsella Taylor can't turn in as possibly early as they would want. And in terms of rookies, we have Alexander, I should say, not just rookies, but debutants. We have Alexander Van der Sant, we have Matthias Kraus, we have Bradley Sexton. We also have Caleb Bensi, who is a winner in the Lionheart Speedway Series. Alexander Van der Sant has been the biggest mover of them so far. He's up into 24th position. And of course, big news coming for Alexander Van der Sant, Lorenzo, because he has not just joined up now with the Lionheart IndyCar Series. He's teamed up with the likes of Adam Blocker, the likes of Henry Bennett, the likes of Andrew Kinsella, a member of Powerslide Motorsports and Adrenaline Motorsports heading into 2022.
All right, that is interesting as far as I'm
car on the
concerned.
wall.
Yeah.
That was Luis Gonzalez Nunez, but as he comes down the track, weaving his Bradley Sexton to avoid running into him. No caution yet. Both wheels are now flailing around as he comes to the inside. We should stay under green flag conditions here, Justin.
Yeah, very tough break, and I can tell you Nunez probably not happy with that because it has been a nightmarish season. He had been off to an okay-ish start in the 20s, and then this ends up happening. He tries to build up a run on AJ Musselman right here along that outside groove, tried set things up to try and get along, boom. And it almost looked like AJ Musselman was trying to make a pass himself, but didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah, it was Tony Schowen who was alongside, and quick reactions from the debutant Bradley Sexton to avoid being collected by the stricken car of Luis Gonzalez Nunez. One more look at it, Justin, and see what you think from the aerial look that we'll get with the 14 car.
Yeah, I need to take a look at this. You see right there, AJ Musselman's focused on the car below. Right there, yeah. Tony Schowen started to come up, nearly hit Musselman. AJ Musselman reflexively just moved up to the right. Unfortunately, the problem was Nunez was also still at his rear tire. It almost kind of looked like a situation where Tony Schowen didn't realize Nunez was there, didn't get the call out. They were basically 3 wide staggered, and ends up hurting Nunez the most, obviously.
So 33 cars. One has now headed to the garage, still out there at least in the session. He hasn't called it quits just yet, but already 3 laps adrift and counting after spending almost now 90 seconds stationary in the pit lane. Robin Malechka III is now losing track of Chris Fowler, so the tires are starting to wear just that little bit, quarter of a second separating first and second. Connor Harrington trying to pinch Tyler Graf to the outside wall. This is the battle for 7th on back, Lorenzo.
It's 7th on back, but it looks like it is a battle for first of sort as Connor Harrington trying to take the look on the inside. The look on the inside gives you a little bit more speed going through the entry. You lose, depending on circumstances, you may lose momentum during the transition from 1 to 2. It's going to be interesting how this one is going to pan out.
Behind them, Matt Taylor, Andrew Kinsella. So Kinsella not able to follow Connor Harrington past on Matt Taylor. Alexis Newsom now coming under fire from Philip Krause's in through turn 1. They dive. Sun continues to set here in the Golden State as we begin to reach the halfway marker of this stint. We'll wait and see which car has been able to dial themselves back into a more conservative fuel mixture, being able to save a little bit of fuel in the early portions of this race. Meanwhile, further back, you also have some action between Barrett Rolfe and Brian Carey. Rolfe has now gone and passed the Canadian. Meanwhile, Carey's teammate Andrew Kinsella has got past Matt Taylor. As still the battle between Tyler Graf and Connor Harrington continues to rumble on. Justin, these cars now 1 second back from the cars in front. They are starting to lose track of the draft.
And that's the danger of fighting too aggressively like this, where if you go and swap back and forth to the point where it checks one of the drivers up or both in that situation, it's going to cost you. In this case, Harrington just cannot get by Tyler Graf, and that is cost him the draft to his entire rest of his team. That's only the one saving grace, I think, is if they allow the chance for Harrington to stay within that 1 second, he has the chance. Now it's the matter, though, of if Tyler Graf pounces back for an attempt to move right past him again, I think he's in trouble.
So Harrington has gotten past Graf. Graf not able to get close enough this time around. Now 8/10 the margin between the King of Chins and Connor Harrington up the road. Meanwhile, Tony Schowen's climb through the field continues, looking aggressively now on the back. First his teammate in the Adrenaline Motorsports camp, Brian Carey, but Carey's to the inside of Barrett Rolfe. Carey's going to try and slide this one up the track, Justin.
Carey right now, keep in mind, struggling a little bit in the midst of this back and forth. 15th. Tony Schowen, for comparison's sake, already up a whopping 9 positions. Shockingly enough. Tony Schowen running the best he's ran in a while in this IndyCar series so far. Give him credit so far because he's able to carry a little bit more speed compared to some of the others off the corners. He's choosing the lanes right. And it also helps that everyone else is squabbling in front of him still.
That's the type of race that this is, though, Justin. It's about putting yourself in the right position at the right time. I feel like I've said that a lot over this past weekend. I was commentating on the Cup of Nations, where basically it was a total smorgasbord of craziness. And, for example, we had a race with the Indy Pro 2000 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Bouncing off the limiter, foot to the floor, just positioning yourself right is going to be crucial. Here, positioning yourself right is important, but equally important is being ahead of the car, not reacting to how the car is driving. That's where the in-car tools start to come into effect. That's where the best drivers manage to find the speed out on track.
Absolutely, especially when it comes to the long run, too. You have to think, this race is already blistered on by to the point we're on lap 25, closing up to the end of this first stint. And the difference we're seeing is also pretty prevalent compared to the DW12, I will say, because when it came to that chassis, we've seen drivers...
There was an issue for Alexis Newsom, I think. Is she stationary? Is she done for the day? That would be heartbreak for your Lionheart Speedway Series champion. She's down on pit road.
I was about to say, when it came to today, prior to that moment, we haven't seen too many drivers push up out of turn 4. Unfortunately for Newsom, it almost looked like a massive technical issue. Right here, something happens to her steering, and then she just has to stop on the brakes because I don't think she could even tell what's going on there.
Well, that's heads-up driving. That's to say the very least, because definitely responded really heads-up driving there. Not sure if that's... Is she stuck in 4th gear?
Yeah, the shifter doesn't want to go up. She can't go up shift or down shift.
Let's back it up just a little bit and see if we can jump on board with Alexis Newsom. So coming out of turn 4, she's up at the top of the rev range, hits 11,900, goes for the gear, and I think, yeah, that must have been a technical failure there, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it must have been. It's a little weird one. We saw wheel failures as it turns off and the wheel just goes one side and catches the driver completely unaware. I think this is the first one where the gearing doesn't want to work.
Not the first time I've seen it.
Okay.
Josh Thompson, who has had some...
of all people.
Yes, no, who's had some bad luck with his cables. He's had... I remember I commentated on GT3 race once where he was basically having to plug his wheel out of the PC and back into the PC almost every other lap to make sure it was still working. So it can happen. That's heartbreak for Alexis Newsom, who is on pit road, and... Oh, she's also out of the session, unfortunately, so that's day done for Alexis Newsom, Justin.
Not the way Alexis Newsom, I think, wanted this season to end for her when it comes to IndyCar Series competition, especially with how things played out near perfectly in the Speedway Series event, being able to work with Robert Muchka III, but now we'll see how things break out from here for some of the drivers. Speaking of drivers breaking away, Henry Bennett, Jason Brophy are trying to swap for the 4th spot. Oh, wow, Fowler, Malechka III, and Otis have ran away from the rest of the pack.
Absolutely, and in the case of 2 of those drivers in that breakaway, it would be first career Lionheart IndyCar victories for them. Polsitter Bennett coming under fire, defending to the inside. He's got the private label Team Hype machine behind him, Brophy, Chin, Harrington. But Bennett does have company in a teammate, Andrew Kinsella, not too far behind in terms of being able to assist. Lap 30 now in the books, so only about 6 laps away, Lorenzo, from the pit window being open here.
Yeah, about 6 laps away, maybe 7 depending on if there's a car going for the overcut. I don't know if the overcut is the more powerful strategy of everything, but this is the battle I like between Bennett and Brophy because Brophy can clear himself away, apply a little bit of pressure on Bennett. Joshua Chin and Connor Harrington comes closer, and the point gaps widen between both drivers. Remember, they are battling for the championship, even though Bennett has a very comfortable lead in the points right now.
I tell you what, good call. Let's take a look at the live point situation. There you can see Otis running in 3rd, has jumped up to 4th in these points. Bennett still in 3rd, but the margin is only about 31 points, give or take. Kinsella's 5th, Chin is 6th. Plenty of swings yet to come, plenty of stories to be written in the final chapter of the 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series. Bennett is holding firm though. Brophy being unable to make the move stick this time around. Sweeps his momentum through turn 4, carries that speed all the way to the start-finish line. And this is where, Justin, potentially we'll see some swap drafting come into play again. That gap, though, between the top 3 and these cars that are squabbling is continuing to increase. Last time around, almost 2/10 quicker was your race leader.
And that's the exact same thing we've seen, albeit with 2 cars, with Speedway Series competition. Second, somebody made a mistake. It caused problems. Speaking of problems, down the back straightaway, Scott Holmes just hit the back end of somebody, trying to move to the outside, and has slammed the wall.
Take a look at what happened to the Sector 5, number 67. Talk us through this one, Justin.
Watch this corner exit because he's trying to keep it pinned to make a move now on Ricky Harden. Harden slides up. He hits the right rear tire of Harden. That's enough to pinball him up into the outside wall, coming down the back straightaway. You see Holmes at this point was absolutely committed and immediately slammed up the track there. So he went for a hole. Unfortunately, the hole closed about a second too early.
Tyler Graf has come down onto pit lane, so he's blinked first. That's an early call. I'm a bit surprised by that one, Lorenzo.
I'm surprised by that one, too. I mean, this is the thing that, you know, if you go for the undercut, everybody else pits. You might have the genius strategy of, you know, of possible yellow flag because we're on the latter portion of this in the final laps. And like I said, the car tends to get a little bit more understeery than usual, and because of that, if you are within someone else's draft in the corners, that could be very dangerous. I think this one with Scott Holmes might have been the case of, you know, driver understeering even with the in-car tools and just being caught by surprise.
So that's another car into the garage, at least for now. Scott Holmes joins Alexis Newsom potentially in being retired. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, by virtue of staying out on track and at least sticking it out there, has now gotten past Newsom. So a couple of points going the way of Luis Gonzalez Nunez, as side by side it's Mike Rasmussen and Adam Fraser. This is for 18th position. Meanwhile, Henry Bennett has been passed by another of the private label Team Hype cars. I wouldn't be shocked, though, Justin, to think that Henry Bennett has been saving fuel, given how he's dropped down from pole position to 6th.
Yeah, this is a heavy, heavy fuel save, and might be thinking long picture here, or big picture, I should say, because here's a look at the reps, keeping it up towards 6th down the middle of the back straightaway, pretty standard, but watch though at the corners here, just letting a little bit more of a roll in with some of the aero as well, at about 210 miles per hour for the corner exit. Compare that to some of the hours they were going a couple miles per hour quicker, so I think of this point, Bennett's just wanting to make sure he's in the hunt of things, in the thick of things, knowing pit stop time is coming up, and some of the leaders have already indicated they'll come in this time. In fact, Chris Fowler may be the first to blink.
Here we go. Is Malechka the third going to follow him through? Remember, you need to coordinate your pit entry here. You cannot afford to stack up on entry. We've seen that in the recent past in Lionheart competition. Fowler's committed by himself. Puff of smoke as he locks the brakes up. He's down to pit road. Doesn't look as though he's followed in by anyone else in the top 10.
Malechka's about to come in this lap.
So Malechka then works his way onto the banking at turn 2. There's Ryan Otis in close pursuit. 3 seconds now, the gap between Otis and Brophy behind. First indication, Lorenzo, we're going to get undercut versus overcut.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because we're on lap 39, so everybody just went a little bit over the margins that we probably had around the track. My eye is on Ryan Otis, though, because if he pits the same lap as Bennett, Connor Harrington, and everybody else in the private label Team Hype does, that is a big advantage to him in the point standings. Like I said, you guys just saw he's 4th place. With every position lost for Bennett is a gain for him in terms of points. So far, the perfect position for him to be right now.
Ryan Otis is by himself, but now 4 and a bit seconds clear of Harrington on back. So Malechka followed in by Brophy, Chin, the debutant Matthias Krause as well. Plenty of cars in pit lane is up on the jacks. Here goes the factory back driver, Malechka the third in the 91 car. It's a relatively long stop, 9.6 seconds stationary. Now, where is that going to feed him out in comparison to some of the cars that have already pitted? Where's Chris Fowler? There you can see Malechka the third will be a lap down. Still waiting for Chris Fowler to come. Looks like the overcut has worked nicely for Malechka the third, but it does look as though Fowler's already built up that head of steam here, Justin.
The thing is, Chris Fowler has a bit of aero wash that he's been dealing with for the past couple laps. In fact, Malechka the third able to hold on to the net race lead. So that difference with some of the traffic, absolutely huge. Some drivers struggling on the pit entry meanwhile with some lockups.
We'll see if that was more drama than expected, but locking the brakes is easy to do on pit entry here. You're running pretty low downforce when all things are considered, and we saw this in the month of May, the Indianapolis 500. So many drivers being caught out in that first cycle. Barrett Rolfe looks like he came in hot there.
Bill Krause as well.
Very close on that entry, to say the very least. But here's the thing to think about, is more drivers are coming in this time by. Not everyone has come in quite yet. This may cut out an extra pit stop here, as in, this may turn this into a 5-stop in theory.
I think we're a bit far from putting that projection forward, Justin, because
it's a possibility,
yes,
is the key thing.
Well, the reality is we haven't had a caution yet, but to go caution-free for 500 miles in a race like this would be a shock, as now, on this lap 42, everyone is into pit road this time around.
And for some of them, 10 seconds, some of them 9.5 seconds in terms of the pit box, some of them squealing the tires, in fact. But already Malechka the third has zipped on by him along with Chris Fowler. Some of these drivers are getting dangerously close, though, I've noticed, to that outside wall on the entries, to the point where you can hear a little bit of some of the metal scraping around the racetrack. Chris Fowler nearly hit the outside wall with his side pod, as he's now getting the run to take away the race lead from Malechka the third.
Confirmation as well from Alexis Newsom. It was a VR crash. That's something that Brian Carey is all too familiar with. So unfortunate for Alexis, but we know she'll be back in force in 2022. So pit cycle is in the books. Ryan Otis has actually cycled out about 1.5 seconds back from these two race leaders, but I think partly that's because he didn't have any assistance when he was running by himself. Both Malechka the third and Chris Fowler did have at least a little bit of traffic. Yes, it was traffic that had lapped him, but still something that would have been a big factor. Gap between first and fourth Lorenzo is up to 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, which is surprising for me a little bit. You know, the fact that they kind of widened like this, the gap from third to fourth, and then we see now the battle between teammates of Joshua Chin and Jason Brophy. As Brophy goes on the inside, he needs the points, of course. He just trying to look where's Henry Bennett. He's 10th place, so for him so far, it's the perfect scenario, but even more for Ryan Otis.
Yeah, Henry Bennett really not having the kind of race that one would expect from him, after especially putting it on the pole position for only the second time this season, first time since all the way back at the beginning of May when we went racing in Kentucky. Sounds like as well, Justin, there was almost another moment for Luis Gonzalez Nunez.
Yes, he's finished up his repairs a little while ago. He's currently 9 laps down. When it comes to Luis Gonzalez Nunez, it was exit turn 4 a couple laps ago where it was exiting lap 35 in particular, where James Krahula nearly came up and nearly squeezed him up towards the top of the track near contact. And again, Nunez lucky to still keep on going as a result of having to back off hard off the gas here, already approaching lap 50.
I tell you what, that's a good little segue over to our SimXperience driver profile for today's season finale. It is James Krahula, his last race in the IndyCar Series before he'll take a short hiatus from Lionheart competition. 112 starts, that dates back to Iowa in season 1, been around since the very early days of the Lionheart Racing Series. 55 top 10s, 25 top 5s. Best championship finish came back in season 3, second in the championship. We haven't really seen much of Krahula in 2021, Justin, but we are definitely sorry to see him take a step aside from Lionheart competition in the next couple of years.
Very unfortunate to see, especially since he is a longtime League Series veteran when it comes to the iRacing service. Anything that has a wheel on an oval, you're usually seeing James Krahula driving on that racetrack. And I've seen him do well in stock cars. I've seen him do well in various different types of short track events. Seen him do fairly well when it comes to this season as well. Just unfortunate to see him say goodbye for now.
Gets past Caleb Bensi in the number 29 machine, now works himself into the top 20. We'll hopefully not have seen the last of James Krahula when we see the checkered flag here today up towards the middle of the top 10, middle of the race, I should say. It's Brian Carey, Mike Razmas duking it out, 68 versus 79 as they work themselves out of turn 2. Carey jinks back to the inside. They're 3 seconds back from Matt Taylor, so this is where the swap draft is coming into play for these cars as well. Not necessarily worked out Lorenzo as Ryan Otis would have wanted. He is now about 2.5 seconds back from Chris Fowler in second. He's being closed on in by Jason Brophy and company.
Yeah, Joshua Chin, basically 33.0 being 2/10 lower than Joshua Chin, Jason Brophy, and Barrett Rolfe. Let me just say, what a first in for Barrett Rolfe. Coming from outside the top 10, going now outside of the top 5 into the top 10, and within the same pace of the private label team hype guys. It's going to be really interesting how this one pans out, but Otis, if he keeps driving all by himself, this is going to put him maybe on the back burner in terms of fuel in comparison to the rest of the field.
It's a long way to go. I still think that Justin was a little bit optimistic when he's already talking about a fuel mileage race to the end from here.
Well, keep in mind, you have some of the drivers like Craig Forsyth who apparently missed this race because of the doctor's appointment saying, yeah, I think that's possible. So we'll have to see, though. It's the long picture and the long game, keep in mind. That's going to be so critical. Remember this, though, Arjuna, as well. Drivers, including Kinsella, were testing how long they can make it on fuel 30 minutes before the race tonight.
Yes, but you kind of, I think, do that more thinking about the end of this race. If how you play the fuel mileage game from there is it's Chin and Brophy duking it out back and forth. Barrett Rolfe, who was up 11 positions in the Ascaro Autosport number 33, content to hang back for now. You can never plan for a 500-mile race to go green from flag to flag. It would be great if it happens, but it's one of those things, Lorenzo, where you have to make sure you've accounted for the different things that can occur in a race as lengthy as this, in a race as chaotic as this.
Not only that, you have a racetrack that is very wide as well. So when you think it's going to come out, a yellow flag is going to come like what happened to Luis Gonzalez Nunez. It doesn't come out and basically puts everybody on the back burner of sorts. Oh, this is going to come out. We're going to get a yellow flag. We're going to get a yellow flag. Maybe I'm going to get fuel in. And it doesn't go, and you have to reset yourself for plan maybe M or N or sorts and still make it in the racing. So that's the beauty of these long mileage races, you know, that you have to have all kinds of alternate strategies if plan A doesn't go to work.
And that's what, for example, as part of the Powerslide Motorsports team, for example, when it comes to the month of May and, of course, the iRacing Indy 500, we know what the fuel numbers are. We think about the fuel mileage, all of that stuff, and we make sure that we have ideas in mind for how different race scenarios are going to go, depending on when cautions come out. For example, you get a caution on lap 120. What are you going to do? Well, you refer to your fuel mileage numbers, etc., etc., etc. This, interestingly, does have a little bit longer of a fuel window, but when you think about the fact that this is 2 miles versus 2.5 miles for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, this actually burns a little bit more fuel, Justin, because I think you're a bit more full throttle than you are at Indianapolis.
Yeah, you're right on that when it comes to this racetrack, because you have long straightaways compared to Indianapolis here at this racetrack, but also when it comes to the corners, it's more so near full throttle around the racetrack. It's not to the point where it's completely, absolutely full throttle the whole way around. You're likely going to push into the wall if you do that out of turn 4. But you still have to crack the throttle a little bit. Compared to the Indianapolis, you have a little bit more time out of the throttle, some time potentially as well in the brakes even. Don't expect much, if at any, uses of brakes other than dragging the brakes, maybe in the corners, just to give a little bit more rotation with the nose or something. So in our words, it's still a very quick racetrack. And in turn, you do burn that fuel as Barrett Rolfe has hit the wall.
Uh-oh. Barrett Rolfe, after charging up through the field. How significant is the damage going to be here, Justin?
He did give a crunch to that right front, but is it the question of the iRacing gods giving him a little bit of a break here? Keep an eye on turn 2 exit coming up. He's already in the midst of dirty air. He's actually settled himself very well in the midst of the private label team height contingency. So he's basically made himself the extra wheel on the train, so to speak.
And so
watch right here, though. Corner exit. This will be right where he's choosing the line. You see the arrow taken away right there. double arrow wash there, boom, wall.
So easy to do, and he wasn't happy to try and lift out of the throttle, which is what you can do to try and avoid it, but if you do it a bit too late, you unsettle the balance of the car. It can very much put yourself in more trouble than you'd end up. He's struggling to hold on to the draft of the cars in front, but at least, Lorenzo, he hasn't plummeted like a rock yet.
Yeah, he hasn't plummeted like a rock, even though the gap is right around half a second. And Connor Harrington is just coming closer and closer because of that struggle that he had on the wall.
Great look from above, as there goes the dive from the 44 car to the inside. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, by the way, is down onto pit road. Of course, he's 10 laps down as it stands. He's cycled in front of Scott Holmes, in front of Alexis Newsom. We'll wait and see if, for Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he's going to stick it out for the remainder of this race. Would be a Herculean effort to run 10 laps adrift, but to maintain that momentum, maintain that focus to the end of this 2021 season. We're approaching lap 60 to be in the books. Brian Carey slid on past Mike Razmas for 14th position. Back to the point we were talking about slightly earlier, Lorenzo, before I believe it was Scott Holmes had his issue. Van der Zandt joining Powerslide, joining Adrenaline. We've seen Van der Zandt really grow leaps and bounds since he joined iRacing, since he joined Lionheart as well. Did pretty strong in the official competition, the iRacing IndyCar Open Series, over this last 12 weeks on the iRacing official service. But now that he's got more resources behind him, now that he can learn from a 10-time iRacing IndyCar Open champion, a 4-time Lionheart IndyCar champion in the name of Adam Blocker, the likes of Andrew Kinsella, Henry Bennett, the sky's the limit for someone like Van der Zandt.
Yeah, thank God he doesn't have to learn from you, Arjun. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa,
no,
toxic.
I had to throw that burn, though. I'm sorry. But jokes aside, Alex has been a guy that have been under my radar, I think, for the past year. I think 2020 has been a season that he learned quite a lot. 2021 has been a season of, being very strong. He won a Speedway Series. I will not forget the Kentucky race, where he won, say, 73 laps in the entire field. And he's actually done that to go to 12th place. So it's a guy that is going to be very strong for Powerslide. I think he was in the Indy Alliance Triple Crown racing beforehand. So it's a guy that is going to be adding quite a lot for your guys' side.
Ricky Harden, by the way, down onto pit lane. And yes, you're right. I think he's going to add a lot. He's clearly an accomplished driver. And we'll wait and see. From a setup perspective, of course, Lionheart's a fixed setup competition, but you have the iRacing IndyCar, iRacing Indianapolis 500, which is open setup. With Adam Blocker now having his duties as a trackside engineer, maybe he can be the focal point of the push forward as Tyler Graf has drifted down the grass, and that was not how you want to approach where victory lane is. So we'll stay under green, though, Justin.
Oh, trouble, turn 2. Ricky Harden out of the pits has just hit the wall. He just spun it up the racetrack and hit the wall.
Well, there goes what I was saying about no caution, because it's a separate incident that brings it out. First caution of the day. Let's go ahead and see exactly what happened here. 2 separate incidents. Let's dial up first on the racespottv replay machine. What happens to Tyler Graf? That looks like he's already smacked into the wall by himself. Maybe dirty air, very similar to what happened to Barrett Rolfe. Yes, just washes up the track, and instantly that right suspension would have been pointed in the wrong direction. Sliding down the track is the 26 car. Then this is what happened to Ricky Harden, Justin.
Yes, Ricky Harden apparently had hit the wall a while ago, had to come in. Then he does this. He ends up clipping the apron up. The track nearly gets T-boned and adds a meatball flag to his troubles.
Believe that is Matt Taylor in the Alcantech NHR Esports number 8. Yes, it is indeed. And the question now is, you're talking about the iRacing gods. Are the iRacing gods smiled at Matt Taylor?
I believe they might. And that would be for the first time in a long while when it comes to Matt Taylor.
True.
Because the Speedway Series ending for him was anything but luck.
Onto pit road then. The entire field will dive. There goes any sort of thoughts about the fuel save at this early juncture in the race. It does look as though a couple of cars might be staying out. Aaron Morgan, I think, wants to get the point for leading a lap, because you do get a bonus point, 2 bonus points, because it's a double points race for leading the lap, so the 48 will stay out there. Everyone else, though, is down onto the pit lane and into the box for the second time today. And a couple of booms out on track into the pit box. Hopefully everyone can get out of here cleanly. Henry Bennett in that prime position up on the jacks. There he goes. The gap that Chris Fowler and Robert Malechka III enjoyed has come down to nil. Race off a pit road. Malechka III, Chris Fowler, Ryan Otis, Jason Brophy, Connor Harrington, who jumps a couple of cars to get into the top 5 then, Lorenzo.
Yeah, just trying to look over here. Who else managed to make the jump? I think Andrew Kinsella, jumped one spot, but the biggest jumpers have been really Connor Harrington and I was going to say Chris Fowler maybe also jumped a few spots as well, but a very closely contested pit stops right here. I think the majority of the guys went for 38 seconds overall.
Lorenzo, Chris Fowler was running in second even before.
All right, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
Are you okay?
I'm throwing it back at you, Lorenzo. That's shade.
It's due. It's due. Like I said, I have the ability of kill people or kill myself in the middle of the broadcast.
No, that's true. You can curse even yourself on a RaceSpot broadcast. So second cycle of pit stops. We'll wait and see if Aaron Morgan will come on to pit road this time around. Does look as though he has peeled off onto the lane. Yes, indeed. Morgan will drop to the tail end of the field. So from here to the end, I never trust the commentator's maths, but you got 250 laps in this race. We're on lap 67. 183 or 180 if you want to make it a little bit simpler in terms of the pit stops. It divides pretty equally, Justin, into about 5 stops from here. 5 stints, I should say, from here.
So essentially still a 5-stop, as mentioned before. But either way, now it's going to be how it all cycles about. That lead and that advantage for Malechka III and Fowler, it's gone. Ryan Otis, he just picked up essentially 4 seconds with a caution. Jason Brophy, Connor Harrington, Joshua Chin. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to choo-choo train their way up to the front if they can. The one driver that got majorly lucky with this, keep in mind, was Mike Rickney. He had a solid start to the race before a speeding penalty. He had to take the wave. He needs a quick caution to be able to get on cycle with everybody else.
So out of the 33 starters, we still, it appears, have 30 out there and running. Tyler Groff might be the most recent of the retirees, joining Scott Holmes, Alexis Newsom in the garage. Ricky Harding down on pit lane, just getting a top up on fuel. Luis Gonzalez Nunez not taking that opportunity to come down and get some fuel. He's elected to stay out there and run around on the track. Coming through turns 3 and 4 then. First caution on the day. It involves Ricky Harding spinning himself up the track on the exit of pit road. Pace car onto the safety of pit lane. And Malechka III in control of the field as we come back to green flag racing in the SimXperience Race for the championship.
Oh, and they're nearly wrecking again at the back of the pack, Arjuna, because Luis Gonzalez Nunez mistimed his start, nearly got hit by the back end of Mike Rigney's car. Or in the back by Mike Rigney, should say.
Might cause a bit of a checkup and separation to begin forming, but because of the speeds that we're talking about, surely not long before the pack is closing on up as here comes Chris Fowler, loser the momentum as Malechka III feeds in the dirty air. Here comes Ryan Otis though, Justin. Momentum to the outside line.
I think that scared Malechka III a lot a bit, though, in the entrance to turn 3. You're not expecting someone to try and nearly bump draft you into the corner with an IndyCar at Auto Club. That was near contact. Chris Fowler lost a bit of time as a result, as now they pass by Ricky Harding coming out of the pit lane. At the very least, that's changed the complexion for a bit, Lorenzo.
Here's the thing. Do you expect any bump drafting at all at IndyCars?
No.
No. I mean...
No, that's something we only see in the Cup of Nations with the Indy Pro 2000 in Indianapolis.
That's true.
And if you haven't seen that, by the way, I would highly recommend it on the RaceSpot TV archive. Just go back to race 2 in yesterday's day 1 action of the Cup of Nations. We had 48 Indy Pro 2000s at Indianapolis. The scene across the line is like a moment from seconds from disaster. That wonderful documentary show. Here comes Connor Harrington, by the way, Jason Brophy, and Joshua Chin, the 3 private label team cars, 4th through 6th as they work themselves in through turns 3 and 4. What a season it's been for them here, Lorenzo. Team champions and really consistent performances for all 3 of their drivers. And I'll say it again, in any other season, Connor Harrington has had a championship year. It just happens to be the year where Adam Blocker has had an even better season.
Yeah, I think Adam Blocker just like put the stamp on quality starts and quality races here at Lionheart. But yeah, what Connor Harrington did this season was pitch perfect. And don't take away his skills as an IndyCar driver, though. One of the best in the IndyCar service, in the iRacing service as well. Now having Phil Krause being an addition into this, a late addition, but even though I think he was 5 stars or 3 stars into it, and he already had a race win or a podium, was something amazing to look at it. So the regularity of their drivers and the skill they have is just something to be marveled, to be looked at.
Here comes Andrew Kinsella, lifts out of the throttle, doesn't commit to trying to go low on Connor Harrington, but has to go low to find some clean air. Emerge in the middle lane, which I don't think necessarily where Kinsella wanted to be, but that's what the adaptability of an IndyCar driver has to be on the tools. Front and rear ARBs, the weight jacker as well. It's something that is a nice addition, Justin. A couple of years ago, it was completely fixed. It was a fixed setup, no in-car tools, but now there's a little bit of adjustment, a little bit more that the driver can do to adapt the car to their personal preference.
Yes, indeed. And in talking about Andrew Kinsella, seeing a lot with the practice, he more so stuck around that middle to bottom line in regards to that. Just seemed to be where he was most comfortable in trying to get some testing laps down for the race today, as well as trying to get things sorted out. He's just calmly, methodically just trying to move from pack to pack, it seems, Arjuna, more than anything else. Because now he's essentially just saying, okay, Joshua Chin's the lead car, we'll see what happens from here. If as long as they stay within the draft of Jason Brophy, who was hooked on to the rest of the top 4, then he's still in a good spot. All he needs to do is just keep on being patient, ride along. Chugga chugga choo choo.
Alexander Van der Sant, Mike Rasmus have been pulling their way up forward. Van der Sant is plus 19 from where he started this race at the end of the field. Loses one to Rasmus, at least for now, but he is going, and he is going up the order as quick as one can be. Krause is not far behind, battling out with Philip Krause is battling with Brian Carey there. Lorenzo, I mean, talking of these sorts of races, it's one where, especially given how long it is, you have to put yourself in the right situation, mentally and physically. You need to be comfortable in whatever situation in terms of the rig that you've got. Maybe you've got a comfortable chair, comfortable rig, whatever it can be. You also need to make sure you don't put too much pressure on yourself, because the mental aspect of sim racing is way undervalued, if you ask me.
Yeah, this mentality needs to be, just driving relaxed. Even if you're at the back, I did a Auto Club race where I started basically from the final positions, and I was very chill because I had skills with the car. I was comfortable with the pace and everything else when I was doing practice in it. So if you have the confidence to go over a long race like that, and that ever morphs lap by lap by lap, and it's still undecided until the final laps of the race, is something that should be looked at. And even if you have a butt kicker in your chair, if you don't have like those normal rigs that have the cockpit chairs and everything, just makes it even better.
Look at you plugging the sponsors of the Lionheart Racing Series. 10 out of 10 there for Lorenzo Bonder. One thing that we also have to remember, Justin, is thinking back to Michigan. The rule in the Lionheart IndyCar Series is no diving below the white line until you get to the final lap of the race. It's what helped Adam Blocker win the race at Michigan, stealing it away from Phil Krause. It's looking like, if things stay as they are, the way that Malechka III and Fowler have been able to swap back and forth out front, we may be in for something very similar this time around.
Yeah, remember, Blocker waited until the final lap to just get the good run down the banking off turn 4 at Michigan, dived quickly to the apron, got underneath the driver he was battling with, quickly took away the race win down the final straight away. I wouldn't be surprised absolutely to see the same case. The problem is going to be, which driver will it be, and will they set themselves up? Go ahead.
Why is Tony Showen on pit lane?
Did he hit the wall too, maybe?
We'll have to try and get an answer to that one. Doesn't look as though the right side of that car is too damaged. It looks pretty clean, if I'm being completely honest. Let's zoom in on the number 31. He is still stationary in the pit lane, so that's an indication that potentially there is some damage, but looks okay from the visual inspection, Justin.
Visually, yes, but the problem is you could say the exact same thing with Ricky Harden before he slammed the wall. Look there is a tiny little bend on the right side of the car, just tiny little bit if you look at it with a major squint.
Not sure exactly, maybe we can get a replay of what happened there for the 31 car, who was having a pretty consistent run in today's race, but now looks like he is done for the day. Alexander Van der Sant gets one in Barrett Rolfe, trying to get past new teammate Henry Bennett as well. He'll sling it down the inside, try and drive it up the track, but Bennett's there, and Van der Sant might lose that position that he had gained on Barrett Rolfe, now plus 20 from where he started. Does give us the indication, Lorenzo, that you can make moves here as long as you know what you're doing. Van der Sant has done a lot of practice for this race. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think Van der Sant joined with I think 5 minutes remaining or 4 minutes remaining in the practice. That is not long enough for you to get laps in and be comfortable with the setup. Even so, you don't have practice with the custom fixed setup beforehand. So Alex is trying to clutch it in, see where the car is going throughout the stint, and just working the numbers as I think Matt Taylor just grinded the wall up to turn number 3.
Looks okay, though. Builds that momentum up as now he'll try and challenge Connor Harrington for 6th position as he diamonds the corner down to the inside. Might look to the inside of Chin, who's going to cut the nose off him there. That was aggressive.
Yeah, that's not a way to make friends. Let's put it that way, as, my goodness, I think that was more so, okay, no, you're not breaking up our teammate train. I want to work with Harrington. I'm not working with you. I don't think Matt Taylor's going to like that at all whatsoever, though.
No, in a sports car race, you'd have the flashing lights, Lorenzo, where instantly they would have been going haywire.
Yeah, I think from the beginning of the lap until the end of the next lap, it wouldn't be just one singular lap. They would have been blinking the cars, but we could be thinking of something on the Indy cars to blink, even though there isn't anything to blink at all.
Mike Rigney is the next car to come down onto the lane. What's going on here? That car looks okay.
Scheduled.
Oh, scheduled stop.
Remember, he had to take the wave because of the speeding penalty, his first green flag stop. This is now the end of his run for this fuel tank at 43 laps. Mike Rigney is now going to need a lot of things to happen.
Yeah, he's in a world of hurt right now. If things stay as they are, I'd wager that for the next, 170-odd laps, Mike Rigney fighting an uphill battle, trying to just get back onto the lead lap, let alone contend for maybe a top 10, top 20 finish. That's how things run. Heading down across the start-finish line, Chris Fowler leads the way. Malechka to third, second. Rhino to third. Jason Brophy in this train of cars. It's now a 4-car breakaway, Justin. Brophy's done a good job to close onto these cars. Has left his teammates a bit out to dry.
Yeah, I'm surprised a little bit about that because usually you see the private label team hype machines try and stick together and work together when it comes to the respective grouping. This race, it just seems like Jason Brophy said, you know what? I've got the speed to keep up with these guys. You guys do whatever you want for now. And we'll regroup later, maybe. He's played this out very smartly, I think. Brophy has so far, just holding on to that draft. Otis has also been watching the popcorn seat and the trading between Malechka third and Fowler back and forth to be able to save a bit. It's being played very well from a lot of these drivers and their standpoints.
Down the back straight. Can see the gaps beginning to form between various groups of cars. Long lines as well behind Henry Bennett, who sits in 9th spot. There's tenths of a second all the way down to basically 25th on the track. 25 cars separated by 9 seconds, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and this separation is just working wonder for some of the drivers, just trying to, conserve fuel. They were in 22 laps, 23, but relatively, I want to say maybe 21 laps in their fuel stint. So still a long way to go by and not far ahead from the lead. And the separation just, if one mistake is made, you can basically lose the entirety of the race. But depending on circumstances, if you just dive to the inside, it can work it even better.
You're watching RaceSpottv and ESTV for coverage of round 22, the season finale, and the 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series. Don't go anywhere. We're not even 100 laps in to the SimXperience Race for the championship. Welcome back to RaceSpottv for coverage of round 22, the SimXperience Race for the championship here at the Auto Club Speedway. We are 93 laps into a 250 lap, 500 mile double point showdown to conclude what has been a roller coaster ride that started back in March. Round 1 at Homestead completes the journey here in the Golden State. Welcome back. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be alongside Justin Prince and Lorenzo Bonda for today's action. It's been a fascinating race so far. Just one caution to kick things off, Justin. But there is now a 3-car breakaway that is starting to form. Jason Brophy starting to slide off the tail end of the top 3 cars. It's Chris Fowler, Robert Malechka III, and Ryan Otis all looking for victory to close out 2021.
I find that very interesting because he's essentially now feeding draft back to his teammates. I'm curious if this could help him close back up, but give a shout out to the run Chris Fowler has had so far tonight, Arjuna, because he showed great poise and has continued that improvement when it comes to his pace the past few months. It's just been about finishing the job, and Fowler, he's been doing a great job at keeping himself in position to do that tonight.
And Lorenzo, you've been trying to keep a close eye on what's going on in the live point situation. Yes, the championship is decided for the drivers. The team championship is decided as well. But there's a Rookie of the Year award to give on out right now. It is 9 points that separate Bennett, Otis, and company. Bennett, by the way, is clear of Jason Brophy, which is the crucial battle in the Rookie Championship. 3rd place in the championship, though, still on the line, and Otis is coming on strong.
Yeah, Otis coming in strong. You can see him just on the top of the screen being in 3rd place, battling Malechka and Fowler, just being a little bit more conservative on the overtakes on both drivers to conserve that fuel. In the meanwhile, I think the biggest battle is Bennett and Brophy right now. Gap in terms of points as we currently speak is 80 points. Of course, drop points have to be applied later on, but it's 80 points between the power slide driver to the just trying to remember the team of Brophy private label team hype driver.
Well,
I forgot that.
Well, you forgot as well that it's not Power Slide here in the Lionheart IndyCar Series.
Yeah, but he's from Power Slide. But Adrenaline Motorsports Red.
I'm just giving you a hard time as Brian Carey is down onto the lane, and that's day done. What happened to the Canadian?
We've seen him have VR issues in the past. I'm wondering if something may have happened with that. He was running decently in 16th, and all of a sudden, boom, it's like, oh, he just pulls off the racetrack. He couldn't get past 214 miles per hour down the back.
No, he must have hit something out on track, because there's no way that Brian Carey would end his 2021. It's been a wretched 2021 as well. No way he'd end it like that. Looks okay here. Maybe I'll correct myself there. It does seem to be going a little bit slowly. This is on lap 96 coming in towards turn 4. We'll have to try and cycle it a little further back here, Justin.
I mean, that's the curious thing for me too, is he was just running fine in the midst of the draft pack, then just pulls down the bottom of the track. What in the world was that?
Is that what happened? Sorry, I just looked away for a second.
Did he just hit the wall down the middle of the backstretch?
That was a little bit. If that was the case, that is the weirdest thing I could have ever seen in a race like that.
Well, we'll take a look here. So coming through turn 2, he's behind Barrett Rolfe, Stefan Larkamp. Oh, gets onto the apron for a moment, washes up the track, and then what happens here?
Yeah, right there, just drives up into the wall.
Just drifts up into the wall. One more look at it. Let's see if we can get the onboard look with his steering wheel as well. Just not paying attention, it would seem.
Wow.
He reaches in a VR, doesn't he?
He does.
Yes.
But
was that a frame? Was that been a frame drop or just not realizing the angle of the car? I'm not quite sure. That is unreal. That is unreal.
I don't think it's like what we saw with Alexis Newsom earlier, where it was a VR failure, because that would have shown itself a little bit more differently, and he wouldn't have been able to bring it in so gracefully, Lorenzo, onto pit lane. So either just a momentary lapse of concentration, but it happens in a race like this. That goes back to the mental capacity that I was talking about earlier on.
Yeah, for me it's weird because knowing Brian, he's not one of those drivers that would have driven completely up the road, hit the wall like that. For me, it's a real weird incident. Well, but I had that issue already at one race before, but it can happen. But knowing Brian, it's highly unlikely he would have pulled that one off.
So that's going to be disappointment for him.
That Fowler in the pits.
Yep, Chris Fowler into pit lane. We are actually into the pit stop window. Everyone is on about lap 37. Fowler clearly not saving as much fuel as maybe some of the others, but you can make it with 4 stops from the last caution, counting it back. So 37 laps, right around where you'd expect, but might be a little bit out of the window because we did try and take the fuel numbers from where we restarted the race itself. Joshua Chin to the inside of Matt Taylor.
Matt Taylor just has no friends right now, it seems like. Whenever he gets in front of some drivers on raw pace, everyone's like, okay, we have to all work together to get it back now. But Taylor, I think, has got the pace to potentially break away here because some of these drivers have really backed it on down. And Connor Harrington, with this, has just ran away from everybody else by a full second and a half. Pit stops more this time. Watch the third's calling it in.
Yeah, what happened to Jason Brophy, who's now almost 3 full seconds back from Connor Harrington?
Yeah, Brophy really backed on down, remember, in terms of that approach as Mochka third comes in. Hearing, by the way, that Chris Fowler right before that stop may have grazed the wall as well.
So we'll watch out and see if the pace of the 20 has maybe dropped off slightly as race leader is in, Robert Malechka III. The 91 car for factory backed rolls itself down pit lane at what seems like a very pedestrian 92 kilometers an hour, but I can tell you, you try walking at 92 kilometers an hour, see how that goes for you. Into the pit box he goes, Joshua Chin then still out on track in 4th position. Next car down is going to be Connor Harrington, who leads the train in. Matt Taylor, Joshua Chin, looks like Jason Brophy as well, all down onto pit road this time around, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it looks like everybody from a good portion of the private label team Hype guys are into the pit lane. But and it's funny that they've basically been doing like that on the clock. You know, everybody, if they do something, they basically go in at the same time. And Connor Harrington, a little bit of a fumble into the pit lane, missed up his box by a few meters.
Well, might cost him a bit of time out on track, but doesn't seem to have affected him too much. 9.4 seconds in the box itself. There's Matt Taylor, Joshua Chin, so hasn't cost Harrington too much time out on track. They'll all leave the pit lane, as you can see, thundering in towards turn number 1. There goes the cars yet to stop. Kinsella, Van der Sant, Kraus, Branch, Morgan, Musselman, Houston, Ryman. Those are the cars that haven't pitted this time around. It's Otis, Bennett, Frazier, Bensi, Beard, a whole heap of cars. The debutants, Matthias Kraus, Bradley Sexton as well, all cycling out. And this is where we saw last time around, Justin, that the overcut can work if you do it early enough. If you wait too long, like we saw with Ryan Otis last time, it can cost you time. Philip Kraus still out there on track.
Especially if you, say, get to very heavy traffic, have to check up for some drivers due to aero wash, or in some circumstances, don't come up with draft really at all. Because we've seen if you have no draft, it's up to 0.3 of a second difference in terms of pace, which is pretty huge with what we've seen tonight. Philip Kraus, Samuel Ryman, expecting them to come in fairly soon. They're the last two that have not hit yet on the track. Kraus just peeled in. Samuel Ryman's already called it in. And it looks like the way things cycling about, Relechka third likely to cycle back to the lead by nearly a full second.
Yes, 0.8 clear of Fowler, 2 seconds back to Ryan Otis. Where's Andrew Kinsella going to feed out in all of this? There goes Taylor. Tyler Groff's a lapped car. There goes Brophy, so Kinsella will have some draft. He'll get the assistance of not just Henry Bennett, who is closing, but of course new teammate Alexander Van der Sant, up 19 positions from where he qualified. That will be an even 20 now that Samuel Ryman is down on the pit lane. Approaching the halfway point here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, we're nearly halfway point, going to lap 126. That's where we reach halfway point, and everybody just broke off a little bit from one another. And again, finding himself in a lonely spot again one more time, Ryan Otis.
Yeah, he might need. He's not as lonely as he was last time because he's only 1 second clear of Connor Harrington. Phil Kraus, by the way, emerges alongside Andrew Kinsella, but has to concede for now as they try and get on past the lapped car of Tyler Groff. Only 9/10 now between Otis and Harrington. As that gap starts to close, there's a train that's going to form behind them because Chin, Taylor, Brophy still in close pursuit. We still have the 26 cars separated by 20 seconds. The top two, though, really have stretched their legs here, Justin.
How about 3 seconds the difference? And they are still picking up the tempo to where whoever is going for the swap and picks up the draft is running 32.4s. The driver who gets passed, 32.8s. The main pack right now is running on average about 32.9s. They are currently, when they don't work together, losing upwards of 1/10 of a second per lap. So again, if you get a 2-car grouping away from the rest of the field, good luck. It's about being first and second, and then having a wrestling match for second if you get close enough.
Van der Sant will slide up in front of Kraus. And we talked about this at the start, Justin, is the fact that next year, the start of the year, February, is the last time we'll see this configuration of Auto Club being raced in the real world. It's going to be a big change. Not sure if I necessarily like it, because what it does mean, for sure, is IndyCar is never coming back here.
Yeah, that for sure, yes, because you may as well imagine the Indy cars running on today's Bristol. Do you see that happening realistically? No. How fast the laps will be? I don't know. Good luck surviving.
2 seconds.
But the reason you have to consider the decision-making there is the short track movement, right? When it comes to stock car racing. And fans want short track racing. So at this point, when you don't have new short tracks being built in large markets, what do you do? In the case of NASCAR/ISC, a short track, using one of the tracks you have. It's not a popular decision on its own, but you have to consider this too in that theory. This track has, for a long while, needed a repave. Its pavement in the real world has been around since the late 1990s, around the time when it opened up this facility specifically. You had to repave it somehow, but this is the way to where it pleases some of the fans in stock car racing, gives, in my opinion, a potential candidate for a Championship 4 race for NASCAR in the future, because it's in the heart of Los Angeles, nearly, being where Fontana is at. You want, in theory, a championship in the Los Angeles market. It makes sense from that mark.
Well,
and there's a whole bunch of land you can potentially redevelop. I know that's been a thought process of that as well.
yeah, I think part of it is definitely the fact that there's land. What I would argue when you talk about the LA market is that's why they're going to the Coliseum next year. It is to break a bit more into that LA market. Yes, Auto Club is, I mean, in LA, it's without traffic about an hour away from LAX. Let's be honest, with LA traffic on the 405 or whatever it is, realistically, that's more like 2 hours at times, so not as close as one would suspect, but we'll see how it shakes out. Ultimately, new things are not always bad. Well, maybe they are in the case of certain tracks. Atlanta, for example, is going to be very interesting next year, given some of the pictures that we've seen from that new construction that's going on right now.
They're doing live streams.
Oh, they are?
Yeah. Yes, and on top of things, keep in mind, it's being compared to in terms of the tightness in the corners to Darlington with the 1 lane less to work with more banking to carry more speed with the next-gen car, on top of having a front straightaway that is about 6 lanes wide for some reason.
Wow.
I don't know how it's going to race yet, but we'll see.
What do you think, Lorenzo?
I mean, I'm like for this change from 2.5 miles to basically a half mile. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I do see the point, like you guys said. Now, my questioning is, does it make the race better? Well, aesthetically, it does make it.
Here's the thing, it's going to be a completely different package you have to remember, too, compared to what they use for the Speedway configuration. Yeah. And that's still in development for the next-gen car, keep in mind.
Yeah,
that's true.
But let's be honest.
There's no real answer of how it would race yet.
But let's be honest, Justin. I know I'm not really a huge NASCAR fan, and sometimes I'm sure my opinions would probably mean I could never work for NASCAR, but the trend that NASCAR is going through, which is reduce the power, increase the horsepower, reduce the amount of skill required to go fast, it doesn't produce the best races. The best races this past year is when you cranked up the horsepower in the car and let the drivers loose to go have some fun.
I'm trying to remember who asked for more horsepower in those mile mile long.
Kevin
I think
Harvick.
it was Kevin Harvick. Yeah, I remember
Kevin
that.
Harvick. Because remember, the Storehouse Racing was testing the 670 horsepower next-gen package, and he wanted more of that.
Instead, we got more of the 550 or whatever it is. Am I right?
I think that's still a thought process of what could happen, but the interesting thing is going to be how it all comes out in the end. Because I think it's not going to be known what is even there with the next-gen car, probably, until the first Speedway race at the rate it's going, honestly. Despite all the years of development for the race car, and the extra year, keep in mind, because of what happened with the pandemic.
True.
Yeah.
At least
think the first race, sorry, Arjuna, just to finish, I think the first race we're actually going to see that might be actually Atlanta, how they actually going to handle that.
Yes, because the Daytona 500 will be with the older gen cars, if I'm right.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's supposed to be all next gen.
So Lorenzo's wrong.
Yeah. No. I see with the new packages and see how they actually handle in terms of
The shorter
aerodynamics
tracks.
and things like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the
Yes.
shorter tracks.
Yeah, we'll see how that all shakes out, but I think there's two trains of thought. Either you're just a diehard NASCAR fan and you'll watch whatever they put on, or you want to see actual racing instead of manufactured racing. We'll put it that way. Connor Harrington, by the way, and Ryan Otis continuing to swap back and forth as they try and build up the speed to try and catch the cars in front. Last time around, they were about half a tenth, almost a full tenth quicker than the race leader. So it is coming down, but they're 2.7 seconds back and needing to close on in. We'll see how long it takes them to do that. If it's at a tenth of a second per lap, it's going to take them almost 27 laps to do so. And that assumes that they're able to execute the swap draft every single lap. Last time around, 2 tenths quicker they went.
Yes, indeed. And keep in mind, the fall is starting to come up a little bit for some of these drivers in terms of the tire difference. Guess who have older tires? Well, let's go to third, Chris Fowler. So I think that's factoring a little bit, as well as the fact that Harrington, Otis, and company, they've been starting to work together very well. Taylor and Chin have just been hooking onto the draft from that point. So at this point, it seems some of the drivers are finally getting in sync and saying, if we want to get back there, we've got fresher rubber by up to 4 laps, let's use it. And let's work together and make 8 tires better than 4.
Mike Rigney onto pit lane, of course, scheduled because he had that speeding penalty on the first cycle of the race, so he'll drop off the jacks, release himself back out onto track. He is 1 lap down and is in danger of going 2 laps down now as well. In fact, will go, I think, 2 laps down as he builds up the momentum out of pit road. Jason Brophy defending from Alexander Van der Sat. The slide from Brophy continues. I wonder if Brophy has a bit of damage from maybe grazing the walls here, Lorenzo, because a little bit surprised, given the strength that he had a bit earlier in this race, to see him struggling now.
Great words, Lorenzo.
I'll pose the question to you then, Justin.
Well, it's almost like with Jason Brophy, something's going on, whether it's something in terms of the team arrangement or whether it's something involving contact maybe with the wall. That may have been a graze enough to cost him a little bit of speed. It almost looks like Jason Brophy needs the draft now to keep up, compared to before where he can run on his very lonesome with a decent rate. Take a look now at the gearing, for example, here. Decent down to the draft here throughout 5th gear. He's not even using 6th gear. I almost wonder if he accidentally over-revved a gear and lost the 6th gear.
See if we can try and pick up some damage to the right side of his car. We'll zoom on in and try and pick that up, but a little bit in shock, if I'm being completely honest.
I mean, I've done it before when running IndyCars at official races at Daytona, where if you go too high throughout the revs, you pop the 6th gear and you're without 6th gear the rest of the way.
Still,
it's an easy mistake you can make, but it's also a big one.
I'd still be a little bit surprised to someone like Jason Brophy to have made that mistake. So we'll zoom in here as he comes down the start-finish straight. Side pod maybe a little bit crinkled in. Maybe not. Hard to tell. Really hard to tell.
Yeah, Jason Brophy, at the very least, doing decently when it comes to this draft. The other thought is if he's sticking in 5th gear like this, maybe he's thinking about the fuel game, trying to make sure he has a shorter pit stop, but also a lighter car towards the end. Hoping to play it out that way, but remember, he's lost nearly 5 seconds to the race leaders in total now. At the rapid pace he has been dropping back. He's struggling even when he's got the draft, unless the car's side by side in front of him.
Absolutely. We are past the halfway marker, by the way, working lap 129 out of 250 here. So 250 miles are done. Less than 250 to go. Not just in this race, but in the 2021 season. Here comes Brophy, though, with a head of momentum. Not able to look to the inside of the Chili King, Alexander Van der Sant. Will dive down low, trying to get some clean air because Van der Sant got fed the dirty air from Kinsella, and Brophy's able to slide up the track. Regains 8th position, at least for the time being. Lorenzo does look as though, for Ryan Otis and Connor Harrington, they have managed to sync on up, but they've now started to tail off in terms of the pace. The gap is below 2 seconds between 2nd and 3rd position, but last time around, the difference in times was basically down to nil.
Yeah, down to nil. It's interesting because they're doing their best trying to catch up to the lead of Robert Malecka and Chris Fowler, but their delta has been equal. Basically the same lap after lap after lap after lap. Not only this lap they managed to catch up a little bit, but it's been an uphill battle and a very inclined uphill battle for both of them. But they can still pull it off. They have about 10 laps or so before their next pit stop.
And pit stops as well here. Already seen the somewhat difficult entry onto pit lane. One driver has been dinged for speeding at this point in time. It's getting physical further down the field as well, Justin.
Well, Matt Houston, down the back straight last time by, said, you know what, I'm going to pass all these cars 3 wide for 20th. So there's that. These drivers are doing the opposite of working together. They're busy having a fist fight in the middle of the racetrack, essentially. And Matt Houston's saying, you know what, I want to get away from this. That's the only thing I can think about this when it comes to that. By the way, this is the same grouping where Bradley Sexton is with Matthias Kraus at the moment. 2 drivers with their first starts who have been very silent today.
You talk about physicality and fighting. The only time that analogy is acceptable, and this is directly from iRacing themselves, Rallycross, cage match on wheels. I know you're a World of Outlaws commentator, Justin. How do you think about that when it comes to the dirt oval side of things?
I mean,
bare
the
knuckle
drivers
boxing?
when it comes, I guess is a good way to put it. Between that and cage match, I guess. Sometimes
something like that. That's for sure. The dirt oval guys, less in the sprint cars, more in the late models, really do know how to get physical, as it were, out of it. Lorenzo, you've been following up through the field. The pace that we were talking about dropping off from Harrington and Otis, a bit of miscommunication between the two of them last time around.
Yeah, last time around, Connor Harrington was in the inside coming to the start-finish line. Ryan Otis was catching the drive, going for the overtake on the top spot, and Harrington moved like last second and immediately apologized because of this miscommunication between both of them. Ryan managed to do the overtake after all, but I think they lost 1/10 of a second because of this miscommunication between both drivers.
Bit of a reset then for them as gap has grown by a couple of tenths once more. It's about 10 laps away from pitting for these cars. 5 laps or so before we'll see Chris Fowler onto the lane, at which point Malecka the third will be by himself as Tyler Graf off of pit road. Graf is 13 laps adrift from the field. He's pitted with Luis Gonzalez Nunez, another car that is 13 laps down and just trying to salvage some points to close out the book. Here's the move from Joe Branch around the outside of Barrett Rolfe, who's fallen back down the order after being at one point up in the top 5 before knocking down the wall. Also around the outside, here comes Stefan Lauerkamp trying to have a piece of the pie.
And when it comes to Barrett Rolfe, I think this is partly just the older tires, partly just not in the best lines to be able to try and sort things on out. Give a shout out though to Bensi. When it comes to these newcomers for tonight's action, he's very much been impressive when it comes to Speedway Series competition. When he started racing that in around the middle of the season, he's been more so known though for the short tracks he showcased. But on the big track here, he's been looking very decent. 19 positions gained from the start.
And there is Bensi in front of Joe Branch. Barrett Rolfe now is going to start falling backwards if he's still having trouble to keep up even in the draft. Last trip around for Barrett Rolfe was a 33.684. That was 4/10 slower than the group of cars that he was squabbling with. Next car in line for him will be Aaron Morgan, the car that pitted last under the caution cycle. And behind him, Adam Fraser, not too far behind. Andrew Kinsella, Joshua Chin up through the order, battling for 6th spot out on track. Kinsella, the defending race winner, 4 seconds off the race lead, but don't count him out yet, Justin, because I'm almost... I'll hedge my bets here. 99% sure we are in for another caution that will mix up the running order here.
I mean, I would have said you might not be the best situation for that unless Kinsella picks up a lot of spots off a potential restart. But then I called a race on Saturday myself where there was the same bet made on a guy who was running 20 seconds behind the leaders who had pulled away from a 7-car train. Then the leader wrecked. Then the other leader tried to allow that person to catch back up, not realizing he was destroyed. Let the whole 20 seconds back up and nearly won the race. So anything could happen.
Chris Fowler is down onto the lane. 139, the marker for him so far. It's a little bit out in terms of the fuel window. He's going to need some assistance. So Malechka the third now is by himself as Ryan Otis, Matt Taylor, and Connor Harrington are now grouped on up. Harrington has dropped behind Matt Taylor, who looks to be indicating he might be coming down to pit road this time around, but I think maybe just trying to get the swap on Ryan Otis.
I think so at this point. Just try and work together at this point. Keep on syncing up when it comes to these machines. Try and close on up because they've done a decent job to chip away at the deficit. If anything, they picked up about half a second more compared to the pit stop window. The tough part's going to be now, I think, how it plays out the rest of the way. And the fact that Malechka the third has nobody to work with for these next couple laps or so here. So this could be a major chance for a lot of these drivers, if they can stay in sync, to close up a lot of time in the 91.
Lap time for Malechka. We'll see what it is this time around. It was a 32.941, so it hasn't really dropped off. It's 100 slower than the last lap for him, only about a 10th slower. The lap time for Matt Taylor, who swaps back now with Ryan Otis. Would expect your race leader to come in this time around. He's working lap 37 of his stint.
Continuing to keep on pushing on forward. This is a little bit longer than some of the estimates around the 110 lap to go mark. So at this point, I don't blame much for the third. The swap draft allows you to save gas. You're able to push a little longer. He's now pushing it now into the pit lane to be able to get on in. And here's an interesting tidbit. It was mentioned by a couple drivers noticing some stuff when it came to some of the qualifying events going on and whatnot. When it comes to the commitment cone, there is apparently a 14-mile-per-hour buffer. You're above that mark, you get dinged for speeding immediately. That's the trigger for the excessive speeding at the commitment cone. Below 14, it starts off at the segment line. So there is that tiny bit of leeway for drivers really trying to send it on in. As long as they don't send it into the pit wall again.
So you're saying that it's not on average speed?
It's on average everywhere else.
Gotcha.
But in terms of that, from what I understand, this was from Derek Justice, who ran the NASCAR iracing Series competition. It's apparently a 14-mile-hour one at the line.
Gotcha.
Then it's about that average.
Okay, that makes sense. As Harrington, Taylor, Rasmus, Larkham, a whole group of cars, Barrett Rolfe included, are onto the pit lane. Where did Malechka the third feed out in front of Fowler? Once more, he's about 1.3 seconds clear, but he's got some buffer this time around. It might take a bit of an effort for the 20 car to close here, Lorenzo.
It might take a little bit of an effort, just going really quickly over here. You guys said 5 stops, right? If we pit right now on lap 145, you can make it under basically two full stints of 37 laps, plus a lap of 32, 31 laps, depending on circumstances.
So Malechka the third now 1.2 clear as Kinsella, Chin onto pit road. Van der Sant inherits the race lead as he cycles around on lap 39 of his run. Bennett also into the lane this time around. Is rolling off a pit lane. A couple more cars. 33 starters, have been cycled down to just 28. If a caution came out now, well, that would be the big game changer.
Hearing that Chris Fowler's just brushed the wall, though, a couple laps ago after his pit stop. And we talked about how there was that possibility before. Fowler has now apparently done it again. He is now nearly 2-second distance behind Malechka the third afterwards, to the point he's now boxed in behind Philip Kraus. Kraus is not pit, by the way.
Yep, so this is a lapped car. Gap between Fowler and Malechka.
And now that's an angry lap car.
Fair enough, but I would suspect that for Phil Kraus, he would be in maybe next time around. He's on lap 38. Van der Sant still yet to pit as well, so the top three haven't pitted, as Joe Branch, Matt Houston, Bradley Sexton are onto the lane this time around. Has left Robert Malechka III, the only car to have pitted who is still on the lead lap. Fowler will have cycled himself back onto the lead lap, and well, Kraus is having none of it. Back to the front of Fowler.
It looks like he's among those drivers who have gone to now what will be a 40-lap stint. That's about 2 stops from here, if my math serves me right, if you can keep on hitting that consistently.
I can agree. I can say one thing, that Kraus did the same thing last time by.
So Kraus is down onto the pit lane this time around. Van der Sant came down last time around, so Malechka III will sweep back to the race lead for Van der Sant. He's behind Harrington, he's behind Taylor, but might even have jumped in front of Ryan Otis, who has not had a great cycle. There is Otis. Van der Sant just alongside. Might be able to hold on as well here, Justin.
Possibly when it comes to Van der Sant, very quiet for him, the biggest mover of the entire field. How about 22 spots gained? And this is why Alexander Van der Sant, well regarded for his speed, as we've seen, and some of the strategy and fuel saving. He knows how to save, he knows how to push. And if it wasn't for a couple different scenarios, he might have been in the conversation for the Speedway Series title.
It's just sometimes how it rolls. There's now lap traffic. Otis cycles in front of Van der Sant. Kinsella will get past Luis Gonzalez Nunez. 100 laps to go after about 5 miles out on track. 2 miles now, I should say, because we're on lap 150, coming to that magic marker, 151, almost 200 miles left in this race. Robert Malechka III leads the way, 4 seconds clear of Chris Fowler, who is sliding through the field after potentially brushing the wall, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Matt Taylor's in 4th, Ryan Otis 5th, with Alexander Van der Sant on debut in 6th. Andrew Kinsella, Joshua Chin, Jason Brophy, Mike Razmas to complete the top 10. Our pole sitter Henry Bennett looks set to continue the trend, where pole is not the place you want to start this race. He is down in 12th position. And Barrett Rolfe, traditionally a hard charger in races like this, once more not nailing the qualifying performance. He's only +1 down in 16th spot. Taylor has now cycled to 2nd here, swapping back and forth with Harrington. The question is going to be, Lorenzo, for Robert Malechka III, running by himself for the most part. Yes, he's got some lap traffic, but what can he do as he starts to work past these lapped cars one by one?
And there's one thing that Robert Malechka can do very well, is overtaking people on traffic, right? I think we saw it at Iowa, that he had a very, very good race overtaking people, overlapping people, being still being fast, and still conserving fuel, even though he had a little bit of a scary moment going outside of turn number 2, but that 91 looks really comfortable as he widens up the gap a little bit, because Harrington and Taylor are battling quite fiercely going through the corners.
So that's one more car that is out, being put 1 lap down. I believe that was Matthias Kraus in the number 59. Ryan Otis, Alex Van der Sant, Andrew Kinsella mixed up in a 3-way fight. Otis pitched down to the inside line. Here comes the freight train. The teammates on the outside.
And one thing having to be noted here, though, Arjuna, is, have you noticed where Chris Fowler is right now in terms of the time? Yeah, that's right. He lost 4 seconds to the second pack. I don't know what's going on with Fowler. We talked about the potential of the wall scrape. It's almost like something's been shuffled in terms of his confidence since then, to the point where he's struggling if he doesn't have draft. Robert Malechka III is running on his own and pulling away from these 3.
I'd wonder maybe as well if there's now fuel saving going on in that number 20 car, Lorenzo, because we know he's been the one that's been coming down to pit road, the earliest of the entire group. And if we go green to the end, he'll require a splash and dash that none of the other field is going to need.
Yeah, it makes sense to be a little bit more back and try to save fuel. He's trying to get within the draft, but I agree also with Justin. I think his confidence might have dipped a little bit, but on pace, looks like he's okay-ish on pace in comparison to the rest of the drivers. He's keeping up with the draft, but I think Justin brings up a really good point. What does happen with that car if he's not within draft? How fast it is in comparison to the others?
This group of cars, by the way, Kinsella, Otis, Van der Sant, they're about 2 seconds back from Harrington, Taylor, and Fowler. Last time around, they closed very slightly. This time, what's it going to be for Andrew Kinsella? It's a 32.798, basically matches the lap time for Chris Fowler with a 32.779, so no headway being made there. Within 100 laps to go to close out the 2021 season. It might take a caution here, Justin, to stop Malechka the third. He's pulled out even further that gap.
I'm not sure how he's doing this with this rapid pace other than using the lap traffic to a T. He's in full send mode, especially knowing that no matter how you slice it at this rate, it is looking like a 3-stop. It's just a matter of how much fuel you have to put in towards the end, or rather 2-stop, I should say. But now, if he can keep on just using the traffic as leapfrog, try work with the car in front for a little bit, pass by them. Next car, work with them a little bit, pass by them. He can just keep on using that slingshot and swap draft effect to keep on running away like he would have been with the leader. Keep in mind, when it comes to this, he had hit 15 laps to go for his pit stop. So he is doing a really solid job. It also helps, too, and more Taylor, Harrington, and Fowler fight, or he'll run away out of the corners.
There you can see as well, left-hand side of the screen, the last pit stop lap for all of these drivers. I believe that Lorenzo Bonder is trying to figure out the strategy behind the scenes as well. So, Lorenzo, what are you seeing?
Yep. So I'm just looking over here. I did calculations for lap 144 when he come into the pit lane. 37 laps on the stint grants you to go about lap 180, 181, since he went on 143. Then 37 more laps again is 217 to 218. Then you have to maybe go for 32 laps, 33 laps of fuel. That's nearly full mileage on the stint to make it until the end. So it's a 3-stop race from now on.
That's for Malechka, right?
Yeah, I think basically everybody else as well.
Chris Fowler.
Bar Phil Krause.
Well, no, everyone other than Chris Fowler is looking good.
Yeah, true.
Malechka and company all came in late enough that they should be okay. But for Chris Fowler, he might need to do a 40-lap stint at the end of this race. That's going to be stretching it, given what he's been doing to these last couple of stints, Justin.
Yeah, 3-lap undercut compared to Malechka the third, so more worn tires. That is going to be very tricky, because here's the difference between Malechka the third and Fowler. Malechka the third, we've seen in Speedway competition specifically, knows how to really save fuel. Fowler, fuel isn't the biggest concern, it seems, at times in some of the races we've seen from him, where he'll full send it from 7 rows back if he can, and pull away by 10 seconds before he has to come in, and guess what? Everybody else was saving. It almost feels like the same situation where Fowler just went full on, push hard, to the point where now he's in a rougher fuel window because of it.
Race leading gap. Incredible to say this, but it is up to almost 7 full seconds. Malechka the third continues to just stretch his legs and pull away from these cars that are now 2 wide, almost 3 abreast for a moment there. Chris Fowler has at least got the speed to hang on to the tail end of these cars. But Malechka the third, a 32.563 last time around in comparison to 32.8s, 32.9s for second on back, is looking impervious at this point in time as we head into the final stage of this final Triple Crown race. Remember, Adam Blocker would have had the chance to set history, the first driver to ever win all 3 Triple Crown races in a calendar year across of Lionheart competition, but he is going to be trackside for NTT IndyCar Series testing down in Sebring, so unfortunately not able to be here with us today. Hopefully we'll get the chance to talk to him during our post-race, post-season awards show. Multiple trophies and awards going the way of the 4-time Lionheart King, Adam Blocker. Connor Harrington across the line. It's 6.5 back from Malechka III this time around. Does look as though Malechka is starting to fall off very slightly here, Lorenzo.
Just trying to take a look, but it does look like it stabilized a little bit. The gap, it's about 6.3 seconds. Just taking a quick look over here. A guy that we should be looking for that is also on those long runs aside Phil Kraus that could be a factor in this race, maybe in the final laps. Alex Vandersand, if he doesn't nudge his car into a wall. Just working that field strategy. We saw him doing the Speedway Series quite well for his advantage. And his tires on paper would be about 2 or 3 laps with better grip in comparison to the rest. So he could be more aggressive towards the end of the race if he wants to.
You can see clean air for the factory back driver that leads the way right now, so not getting any draft maybe explains why the lap times have leveled off between first and second positions. There is a lap car that's now tucked up behind your race leader, diamonding the way through turns 1 and 2. Battle between Otis and Kinsella continues to rage on here, and Justin, it's been an up and down ride for some of these drivers in 2021, but you said it best earlier. For these drivers, an opportunity to maybe reset over the offseason, one final chance to deliver in 2021. But for the new drivers, the likes of Van der Sant, the likes of Bradley Sexton, Matthias Kraus, Caleb Benchy, this is really a showcase of why they should be a full-time part of the series next year.
I think so, because we've talked about it a lot when it comes to the Lionheart Speedway Series and its rookie class, since it was a first-year series. A lot of the drivers coming up from that series really performed strong, and I think will be a part of Lionheart competition in general for a long time, or as long as they want to be, because they have showed they can drive clean, they can strategize, they know how to be quick. Malechka third strength is qualifying. When it comes to Ryan Otis, his strength has been on the road courses, being a very consistent threat inside the top 5 most of the road courses. Van der Sant's strength has come to be fuel-saving in that regard. We've seen as well in the past some of the drivers like Henry Bennett, you've talked about his experience. That helps him a lot. But in regards to this series, he's decent when it comes to the road courses as well. You've got a lot of talent from that group. Add in drivers who have gained a lot of experience lately, like Ben C, especially when it comes to races like Richmond and Iowa, or you bring in someone else into that equation. It's been a very talented grouping. I'm very impressed with some of the driving when it comes to a lot of these drivers from the rookie ranks for multiple different series and sanctionings this season when it comes to Lionheart competition. It's been exciting to see how they've been faring out. The biggest question marks to me are going to be Sexton and Kraus, because keep in mind, those are the drivers who have worked a lot in the practices to earn the shot.
Be interesting to see how 2022 shakes up. Chris Fowler's slide continues. A couple more wall taps for him. He is now down in 7th position, in danger of even losing the draft of Van der Sant in front of him. The advantage that he'll have is there's draft all the way down to 12th position between Razmas and Bensi. There is a 13.5 second buffer. Robert Malechka III looking like he might be able to lap up the way to P13 if things stay as they are. But that's going to be frustrating, Justin, for Chris Fowler, to say the very least.
I think so, especially since we've just gotten some more reports. He had scraped the wall an additional 2 times. He is not looking pretty when it comes to his respective race. Samuel Ryman has also just reported over the radio he's got damage too, and he just had to come on down. So some of the drivers are getting major bits of damage just by grazing the wall here. This car is like almost an egg. You hit the wall, you're going to pay for it. Fowler, I think, may have just about hit the wall again. He's getting very dangerous to it.
Yeah, he grinded the wall outside of turn number 1, going to turn number 2. Managed to save a little bit. Capped about 212 kilometers per hour, but he's playing with fire lap after lap after lap with the advantage that he has. But then again, it's so complicated. You know, he knows he's in the worst spot in terms of fuel, but if that's an alternate strategy to save fuel, it's going down the drain so fast that any perspectives of top 10 is waning, and top 15 as well.
I think that the idea that that's fuel saving from Chris Fowler has to be thrown out the door right now. That's clearly damage because he's been one of the slowest cars out on track, and it's close between Kinsella and Otis. They're not helping each other in terms of drafting their way up to the front. Race leading gap is starting to come down bit by bit. It is now under 6 seconds for the first time in a while, but having said that, 6 seconds at a track like this, Justin, it might as well be an eternity.
Yeah, 6 seconds at this racetrack, for reference sakes, is about the entire run through turns 1 and 2 right now. Good luck closing that up in raw pace. You essentially need a lot to happen to close up that type of a deficit, and Malechka Third's continuing to just get the luck of picking the right spots to reach the traffic. The swap draft for Taylor and Harrington just hasn't been working all that well so far, for the most part. In our words, it's going to be very difficult to close back up. Here's the look for Van de Sande.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement. I think Fowler is in trouble. I think Taylor might be in trouble, even though they're sitting in second with not much damage. I just think that Malechka the third is pulling away bit by bit as 75 laps to go next time around in this 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series, 150 miles. We've survived 350 miles. For these drivers, they got to make sure they keep that mental focus. Avoid brushing the walls, avoid knocking down any of the aerodynamic surfaces on this Dallara IR18. Survive till this end of this race. And of course, new era of IndyCar is beginning to loom on us. We have, of course, the next-gen cars coming to NASCAR soon. We'll have new engines coming to IndyCar soon with a hybrid component as well. Be interesting to see how that works on the ovals in particular, as Chris Fowler has come down to pit lane. Now we'll wait and see if he's got any damage, Lorenzo, to be fixed here.
Yeah, let's see how long he's going to stay in the pit lane as he stops on his stall a little bit sideways, but it's safe enough for him to change tires. Goes up on the revs. Looks like he's going away, and if there is any damage, it doesn't look like it is visible to us.
Yeah, looks pretty minor, but that's the thing with a race like this, where you're so dependent on the little bit of aero that you've got to make sure it doesn't slow you down in some ways. It does look as though at least there was a little bit of crinkling in on the right side pod for the number 20 machine. So he's the first onto pit road. Expect Malechka the third maybe in a couple of laps' time as Otis almost runs himself up into the wall. Here comes Van de Sande to make it 3 abreast. Down the middle he goes. Alexander Van de Sande up to 4th. Plus 26 from where he started, Justin.
What did I say? He knows when to push, and in that case, he knew with how things were faring out, that was a great opportunity to do so. And now they're ditching Ryan Otis as a result of all those checkups. Andrew Kinsella is still doing a decent job to keep up, and keep in mind, some of the traffic is starting to break things up among some of these cars. As Malechka the third, for reference sake, has just passed on by James Grahul.
Mr. Jason Brophy down onto pit lane in the 88 car for the penultimate time this season. If things work out as expected, there might even be a splash and dash required for the number 88 car. I wonder if he's been up into the wall potentially. And you notice this, that Lorenzo, the gap between second, third, fourth is really starting to close on down.
Yeah, I think lap traffic might have played into effect over here in Matt Taylor as he comes into the pit lane. But last time by for Van der Sande, only half a second quicker, which is mind-blowing to see, of course. He has clear traffic, and now has to dodge throughout this traffic. A little bit scary for you to do that, but looks like the Adrenaline Motorsports red driver just having a good... Yeah.
Nunez into the wall.
Doing this again.
Yeah, Rigney can... I think that's Rigney in the 00 who darts down to the inside just in hesitation, in trepidation of what was going on. Malechka the third into pit road this time around. Is anyone going to follow him in? As Connor Harrington will take over the race lead as it runs. Van de Sande up to second, Kinsella up to third, Otis Kraus fourth and fifth. Doesn't look as though anyone's come down this time around, so it might be Connor Harrington that we expect next into the lane, maybe next time around.
Leaves him on his own, and Keep in mind, part of the reason for the distance is, of course, the pit stop for Matt Taylor, but also the fact Matt Taylor lost a lot of time when it came to some of the traffic around him before. Connor Harrington coming on in just in time before that too wide traffic behind him came into play.
And to correct myself, the math on Jason Brophy's pit stop does mean that no splash and dash will be required. It will be a full tank of fuel the next time he comes in, basically. Especially given that you are somewhat limited by the fuel tank here. Rather long stops in comparison.
Caution!
Oh no.
And that's going to throw Robert Malechka into an interesting predicament. He's fortunately still on the lead lap. But Chris Fowler, Matt Taylor find themselves one lap down. And I believe it was Barrett Rolfe and Stefan Larkamp that came together.
No, it was Joe Branch, I think, in that grouping. Larkamp was in the vicinity, but Branch pushed up the racetrack. There's Larkamp in the pit lane.
Well, that's
Branch in the backdrop, down to the bottom of the racetrack, went half a groove up into Rolfe's tire, right up the track and into the path of Adam Frazier.
That's going to be an automatic penalty for Stefan Larkamp as he tried to exit pit lane. That's what happened between Joe Branch and Barrett Rolfe. We'll get another look at it from the aerial look brought to us by ATVO graphics partners at racespottv. You can see a little bit of one, a little bit of another. Branch up the track slightly. Barrett Rolfe did come down a little bit. Adam Frazier, nothing he could do. Slow agonizing roll into the side of Barrett Rolfe, and let's take a look on board with the number 17.
Nowhere to go. And then you have on top of that what you mentioned, the drivers trying to skirt through the grass to try and get back out on the racetrack. This just flipped the race upside down here in terms of the running order, because if I'm looking at this right, Malechka the third is still the first of the drivers who have pit.
Yes.
But then it's Harrington. Mike Rasmus would cycle to third if this plays out right for him. I believe he might take the wave, though.
No. Mike... Oh, yes, you are right. I think Mike Rasmus might actually cycle to third because he came down to pit road at just the right time. Ryan Otis leads a whole queue of cars. Malechka the third does indeed cycle to the race lead. Now the question will be, how does things play out from here? Taylor will be towards the back. Fowler, Brophy, Rasmus will all be pinned at the tail end of this field. They may have some lapped cars in between them as well to make things just that much more interesting. Race off a pit road for these cars on pit lane. Ryan Otis beaten off the lane by Philip Kraus behind him. Joshua Chin in front of Andrew Kinsella. Henry Bennett has cycled up the field. Well, I said we were due for a caution, Lorenzo. Guess what?
Yeah, we got that caution. Yellow calls another yellow. And Malechka cycled out in first place. Connor second. Alex Vandersen, of all people, sometimes strategy is a crazy world, isn't it? You know, strategy might have worked for him on the long run. Now, on the short run, it does work for him big time. Goes third place in the whole cycling off the field. I actually have a question to Justin because he was listening to comms as well. Did Barrett say he was coming into the pit lane prior to the crash?
No, there was no communication at that time.
I heard something from Barrett prior to that crash.
I didn't quite hear anything from Barrett myself, but again, at least from my viewpoint, yes, there was a more so I think Branch came up than Barrett Rolfe went down. The reason I say that is if you go seam to seam, the thought process, at least in my regard, is if you're below a certain seam, don't cross that seam if you're side by side.
Agreed. I'm gonna check that. I'm gonna check that out and see if actually it was a miscommunication issue.
End result: second caution of the day. Big mix-up in the running order. Phil Kraus finds himself outside of the top 10 coming into the cycle, up into 4th position. Aaron Morgan also a big victor there. He's up into 10th. AJ Musselman is up into 11th. James Krahula 12th. Brian Beard 13th. Bradley Sexton, who was one lap down at one point, now finds himself in 14th with Matthias Kraus for company. Stefan Larkamp, Mike Rasmus behind them. Matt Taylor, the first of the cars that had come down to pit road and was trapped one lap down, is all the way in 18th position with a lot of work to do as lights are off on the pace car this time around. Justin, 66 to go. We are still looking at one stop from here to the end. It's now how do they play it on strategy.
It's a one-stopper from here. It's just a matter of what lap they elect to come in. Do you try and split this up the middle? Do you try and go as long as possible and bank on a caution or go for lighter fuel? It's all up to these drivers right now to see which strategy will work out. By the way, Lorenzo, I believe, just checked on this. Apparently, Ralph did say he was pitting prior to that crash, which may explain why he was so low on that exit.
Miscommunication potentially, but the second caution of the day comes to an end. Green flag back out in the SimXperience Race for the championship. We are racing in the Action City.
Clean start with these drivers, for the most part, trying to wrap the bottom of the racetrack. Ryan Otis, though, really got some aero wash that time nearly up the track.
Clean start, especially compared to what we saw last time around. Looks like Henry Bennett will get past Andrew Kinsella as Ryan Otis loses touch of Philip Kraus. Malechka does have a lapped car in between him and Connor Harrington, so that gap is up to about 0.6 of a second. Here goes the lap car to try and get the lap back. Which car is that? Caleb Bensi, I think.
Yes, it is.
Well, he's got to be careful here. He does not want to be mixed up in the race for the victory here. Kraus to the inside of Alexander Van der Sant will slot himself into third. Now Private Label Team Hype running second and third positions out on track, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and that makes a little bit of a more dangerous situation having Bensi right over there as Kraus goes on the inside of Connor Harrington, swaps positions with his teammate, and now makes a little bit more spicy the way that we're going through this race. This is going to be a one-stopper. Justin said is what they do, they pit instead of can they make it to the end with one more tank. It's going to be a very frantic first 6 laps of the stint. I have to make a projection here.
Kraus to the outside. He's looking really confident at this point in time. Has bided his time, being patient to this point. Now goes maximum attack. Bensi has to be careful here because Kraus has got the momentum and almost contact with both Bensi and Robert Malechka III. Backs out of it for now. But this is the danger zone, Justin. This is why Bensi has to be oh so careful.
I think Malechka III is starting to get really rattled and upset about all this because this is a dangerous game to play. Bensi is not doing the swap drop the best out of what we've seen compared to some of the others today. And this could be exactly what Philip Kraus needs. Watch for the run here.
He's going to pinch Malechka, but Malechka shuffles him up the track. 3 abreast. Malechka, the race leader, in the middle of the sandwiches. Gets past Bensi. Kraus will sweep around the outside as well. That will shuffle the lapped car down the order. Harrington wants to try and follow, but gets chopped off at the nose there. Here he comes to the inside. Oh, it's getting fiery at the front here, Lorenzo.
Is getting fiery at the front. I think Malechka called out Phil for trying to go 3 wide on the previous attempt, and now Connor Harrington joins the fray. Alex Van der Sant a little bit behind. This is going to be a wild bang buck to the front of the field.
Kraus to the inside, Kraus to the lead. Malechka was 6 seconds up at one point in time, now has to fight in the Hornet's Nest. He's got Private Label Team Hype for company. Van der Sant slots in front of Bensi as well. Otis will be next in line to get past the lap car. Bennett's up into 8th position. Oh, it's going on all over the track. Mike Rasmussen embroiled with a fight just outside, or I should say inside of the top 20. There he is getting past Matthias Kraus. Lots of action up and down. Clean restart as well, Justin.
Yes, indeed, for now. And keep in mind, Rasmus was one of the drivers amongst those swappers. Speaking of swapping, a swap just happened to the lead. Kraus to the point.
So back and forth, we'd expect Kraus and Malechka to work at least for now, but how friendly do they want to be as Bensi continues to be shuffled down the running order? Morgan now getting past Joe Branch, is now chasing down the 07 of Henry Bennett. Harrington is going to cycle in front of Philip Kraus this time around. Malechka will lead across the stripe. 192 laps in the books here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and now Connor into P2. Van der Sant on the outside, looking for a move. Doesn't have room to go with, neither the speed. And Malechka will live to see the day. Actually denied in this one more time.
Does Van der Sant have the run to close on Philip Kraus. No, it's Kraus who's going to dive to the inside of his teammate. Looks like Kinsella and Otis are behind these guys, squabbling amongst themselves. 5/10 the gap between them. Otis almost up into the wall there. Just about held on to it. Side by side for second. Malechka is beginning to control this one. Van der Sat wants to take advantage. To the inside, he looks.
And for Van der Sat, but too much arrow launch there. Just can't wrap the bottom. Here comes Kraus though with a huge cut.
To the race lead, he's looking. I don't know how hard Malechka will fight this one, knowing that if they work back and forth with one another, they can begin to build up the advantage. Kraus will try and slide up the track. Malechka maintains the momentum on the outside line, and this is where you are downloading the data. You're trying to figure out where you want to position your car coming to the white flag, coming out of turn 4 on the final lap, and making sure you win at the checkered flag to close out the season, Lorenzo.
Yeah, but then again, it's lap 195. You start downloading now. You want to start downloading later that data if you want to. As Van der Sat try to get a run on the outside, far lane, nearly grazing the wall, trying to make a move on both drivers as Kraus goes back into the lead.
You download the data now, though, Justin, because you don't want, if the race starts to break on up and you start getting into a bit more of a single file formation, you need to know what you want to do. As Malechka back to the inside, almost 3 abreast, Van der Sat ripping the wall.
This is incredible racing. This has been some of the best action we've seen all race. And the main difference, keep in mind, is most of the run so far has been the swap draft, but today, in this part of the run, it's been who's got the biggest amount of speed. Van der Sat to the lead.
From the tail end to first, Van der Sat will lead at the line, plus 29 from where he qualified. 3 wide, Kraus gives to the outside line to regain second place, but Malechka back to the lead. Oh, it's getting exciting, but this is where you start to get just a little bit nervous, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous to see that Hakkinen versus Schumacher action going to turn number 1 on ovals. Just trying to pull the plug over here and get the plug out of Formula 1 going to Formula Indy. But then again, very exciting action, but this is the kind of battle I get nervous to try to go around about. It's so tricky that the smallest mistake can cause a big one, and the one thing you really don't want to have this late in the race is a big one.
Yep, one mistake could lead to a chain reaction that might take out multiple cars. Harrington coming under fire from Ryan Otis for what is now 4th position on track. The top 20 still only separated by about 7 seconds. Chris Fowler is starting to lose the draft of the cars in front. That basically answers the question, Justin, as to how damaged the number 20 car was after multiple scrapes with the wall.
Absolutely. Here comes Malechka to third, though, to the outside. Again, this time not enough speed to carry it around the top of the racetrack.
Back and forth they go. Can Van der Sat build up the momentum? 50 laps to go in a couple of laps' time. This is where, as well, you got to remember, there's still 50 laps to go. You put yourself in position now to get in trouble. You might write a check that you don't want to cash when all things are said and done. Top 3 starting to try and stretch their legs about half a second between Van der Sat and Harrington as they build up the momentum. Remember, one final pit stop to go. Anywhere from 37 laps to go will be the magic number. That will be, give or take, about 15 laps from now. Let's see if we go till the end of this pit cycle.
Aaron Ryan Otis may have scraped the wall now, and that may be some trouble for the 95 car. That would have been just moments ago. When it comes to him, would have been him trying to run the outside to save tires.
There's Otis with a bit of separation, both front and back. Andrew Kinsella is now in 6th position, the defending race winner here. Further back down the field, the muscle man has just been passed by Mike Razmas, who's trying to move his way back up the field. Another driver that's had to recover from a poor starting position. Plus 16 for Mike Razmas in that 68 car. Will be fighting for a championship in the Lionheart Retro Series when they return here to the Auto Club Speedway in just over a week's time. But at least for now, working outside the top 10, trying to nose his way in. Across the line once more. 50 to go, 49 and counting. The top 3, you can split them by car lengths here.
This has been very tight. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
Now, it's just insane to think they're basically kind of like 1-2 car lengths behind or ahead of each other. and they're opening the gap to Connor Harrington. They're trying to do their best battling between the top three, and Connor is trying to do his best to get closer. Is not being able to. Lap after lap after lap, the gap kind of widens by a tenth of a second or so.
And they're swapping back and forth. Now they're actually working with one another rather than fighting with one another. We'll see how this plays out because that gap is starting to just build on up. If Kraus wins, it would be a story tale ending after the second Triple Crown race of the season where Kraus was leading, coming to the line. Adam Blocker dipped below the white line and stole it from Kraus, who was looking for his first career victory. Kraus then had to wait 3 more races before finally tasting HyperX victory lane at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Kraus backed that up just 7 days later with victory at Pocono. Robert Malechka III, 3 pole positions before coming into this one. Victory on the short track at Iowa. Very different sort of a race here, but we've seen just how competitive he can be in the Speedway Series. Remember, Justin, if he hadn't missed the first 4 or 5 races of the Speedway Series campaign, it's almost probable that Malechka would have been the champion given the performance that he had across the year.
Especially since he basically won about half the races he started. Throughout that campaign, was very consistent in all types of tracks. Only had 1 or 2 bad races in general when it came to Malechka III. It was just the fact that he missed so many races that he had several races counted as zeros, including some of the trumps being zeros. So he basically had the pressure of, if he had mistakes being made, and we took him out of the fight, and we've seen a mistake happen, and we took him out of the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the competition, or in contention, I should say, or at least top 5 for next year's IndyCar Championship if he goes that route.
I think the thing for Malechka is always going to be the road courses. We know just how strong he is on the ovals, but the road course, especially now in 2021, I think it's the strongest level of competition that the Lionheart IndyCar Series has seen. Even we saw a 4-way fight at Phillip Island between Ryan Otis, Adam Blocker, Connor Harrington, Philip Kraus. You think back to Silverstone where Adam Blocker and Joshua Chin, the class of the field, contact coming to the line there. You think about some of the other road races that we've had so far. Road America was close between a number of cars. Adam Blocker walked to the victory there after an interesting tire strategy. Belle Isle was domination from Adam Blocker. Still the only driver to have led a lap on the streets of the Motor City. For Malechka III, that will be the thing he has to focus on in the off-season here, Lorenzo, as the gap has started to build on up. Almost 0.8 of a second between 3rd and 4th on track.
Yeah, it's going up and down like turn after turn after turn between Vandersen and Harrington. Harrington, sometimes depending on where he's positioned in the car, gets about 0.7 of a second. Then because of the drop that Vandersen is having on the back straight and the front straight, it goes back to 0.8 to 0.9. But the private label team Hype driver is having lots of difficulties. He's trying to get closer within that 3-car scrap. And it's only getting worse because he's getting danger of maybe getting past Ryan Otis. Something happened to Aaron Morgan.
Oh, and yellow flag is out. Does that change the game? 42 to go. I would not be shocked if we see takers onto pit lane this time around. It is the 3rd caution of the race so far, and it involves the 48 machine coming down into turn 3. That looks like Caleb Benson. He just washes up into the wall all by himself.
We need to take a look at this all the way to turn 2 because Aaron Morgan picked up a lot of damage trying to clear himself across Joshua Chin's front wing. That breaks the right front tie rod. The right front tire was completely bent the opposite direction by the corner. That sent him into the wall into turn 3. Here's the look again for turn 2.
Watch on board with the King of Chins. Well, I don't think I necessarily blame either driver there, but it's clear that avoiding action could have been taken from both parties in that one, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I agree. I will not pin this one on Joshua Chin way too much. They're racing so fast and close as we're going to see a very busy pit lane for the last time by on this race that the gaps were so marginal that the whiplash happened, and I don't fully blame Joshua for this one.
Did anyone elect to stay out on track? That's the question. Doesn't appear to be the case. So all the cars on the lead lap roll themselves onto the lane from here. Not likely to be a full fuel mileage race to the end, but definitely going to be one for careful attention.
Oh my goodness, Jason Brophy just sent it into his pit box and nearly hit the wall.
Well, drama on pit lane continues, kind of being the story.
Oh, Malechka the third just lost the lead too.
Kind of being the story of the race so far. Malechka has now dropped down to 5th with a slightly longer stop, slightly longer in the lane as well. Van der Sant will cycle to the race lead. Phil Kraus in 2nd, Connor Harrington 3rd, Otis 4th. Malechka the 3rd has it all to do from 5th, but given what we've seen on that last restart, it's going to be a fiery restart to say the very least.
Yeah, this entire race just flipped upside down and then some because, yeah, in theory, it's going to be close on the fuel. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of fuel saving for some of the drivers. Keep in mind with some of the cautions earlier, drivers could make it 40-plus laps. But this is going to be pushing it for a couple of the drivers, I think. If you get too much clean air, it's going to be the battle of, okay, who's wanting to be the leader and risk burning too much fuel?
We'll see if it's going to be potentially fuel maps being used on the start here for Malechka the 3rd. He does need to make sure he doesn't lose too many spots, I would say here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, for now he cycled back in 5th place, and for me it's weird. Justin said he lost the lead. I checked his pit stall. He didn't miss the pit stall. He got it pretty much cleanly into it, as we see some of the cars getting the wave around. I think he had a bad launch. You can basically lose a full second if you got a bad launch in the IR18. Like you're trying to go from the neutral to the first gear, you just misfire it, and you lose about a second over there.
The lights are off, so it's going to be 39 laps in terms of green flag running. Now, I think the reality is here, Justin, you don't want to be the leader for all 39 of those laps.
No, I don't even know if you want to be the leader for 20 of those laps at the point this could go towards, because remember, the drivers who went 40, 43 laps for the most part were some who were running 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. We were talking about the potential of wrestling matches before. Well, this could be that one and then some.
No time for cars further down the field to jump onto pit lane and potentially top it up on the fuel. Phil Kraus is looking like he wants to go aggressive on the start here, but he's going to have to get back in line and make sure he doesn't get freight trained, as for the 3rd time today, caution will come to a close. The iRacing pace car, hopefully for the final time, down to the refuge of pit lane. We are ready to get back underway for the dash to the line, the dash to the checkered flag on the season. Green flag back out, and a SimXperience Race for the championship. Organized at the front, a little bit more chaotic further back. Joshua Chin already side by side with Brian Beard, but at the front, stretching the legs, Alexander Van der Sant leads from Philip Kraus, Connor Harrington, Ryan Otis, and Robert Malechka III.
Very impressive start, but this is now where the chess match begins. Already a swap. Kraus wants to control the pace, it seems, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a bunch of swap drafting already. Several have really backed it on down already.
Let's see what the lap times are going to be here. Remember, fastest laps in the mid-32s, low 32s as well. We'll get the first indication next time around. Van der Sant, we know just how good he can be in these fuel-saving races. Connor Harrington looks racy, though, as he's trying to get up into 2nd, make it a private label. Team Hype 1 and 2. How aggressive will Van der Sant go here? We've seen him be comfortable on the outside line, potentially the better line to conserve your tires. Out of turn 4. What will the time be? Van der Sant seems content to ride around where he is for now. For Phil Kraus will cross the line, 32.830. Harrington will get 1. Will he get 2? Again, Lorenzo, the reality is you do not want to lead at this point in the race.
No, of course not. You really don't want to be the lead car for those 39 laps. Unless they're betting, there might be a yellow flag down the line because of so much attrition that might happen from the top 10, even top 15, depending on circumstances. So the race has kind of blown out of proportions. As if we get a yellow flag, this is basically a race to the finish without any major concerns. But I don't know. I really don't know. Can they make it on 39? Doing like that? Certainly not.
Too wide, too deep for the race lead. Private label Team Hype 1 and 2. Van der Sant has gone and passed by Ryan Otis, who's actually cycled out in front of Van der Sant on the restart in front of Malechka the third. Harrington now goes for the race lead down to the inside line, painting the white line, shortest distance around the track. And, well, second place in the championship has been sewed up for Connor Harrington. Sits second on the track itself. Live points update right-hand side of your screen. Bennett still is in third position. Ryan Otis is fourth. Kinsella fifth. Joshua Chin sixth. So at least as it runs right now, Ryan Otis might need victory to steal third place in the championship away from Henry Bennett, Justin.
Yeah, I think at this point, yes. At this point, Otis needs a little bit of luck at this mark. Keep himself in the conversation for the win, obviously, but also it might take a said win. With the way Henry Bennett's been performing, been a constant threat for Bennett inside the top 10. But again, it's going to come down to that fuel mileage. It's not necessarily where you're running right now. That could all shuffle a lot for the time being, especially since you have 4 different drivers up in that main grouping at the moment, running 4 different lines, all trying to save the fuel, all with potential of lower fuel maps at this rate, pushing as hard as 226 miles an hour at the end of the straightaways.
Well, 34 laps to go in the 2021 season of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, the SimXperience Race for the championship. You're watching racespottv and ESTV. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a dash to the line. Welcome back to RaceSpot.tv and the final 60 miles in the 2021 Lionheart IndyCar Series. We're in the Action City for the SimXperience Race for the championship. The championship has been decided, but it's all on the line to close out 2021 and to set the benchmark for 2022. Delighted you can join us on RaceSpot.tv and ESTV, where my name is Arjuna Kankipadia, joined alongside by Justin Prince and Lorenzo Bonder. It's getting fiery up at the top, but we have to remember, Justin, it might be a fuel mileage race from here to the end. Van der Sant, Otis, Malechka, they're the ones who have put themselves in the best position to put themselves at the front of the field, but also be in the best place to save the fuel.
Based on what I'm seeing so far, drivers like Malechka III, they're doing a very solid job of staying out of the fighting. Or they were until Andrew Kinsella decided it was go time. Some of these drivers are trying to take some plays seen in the Speedway Series, which had a lot of fuel mileage races this season. Wait and watch the drivers with the fireworks push in the final couple laps. You don't want to be in the situation where you're push for the first 10, 15 laps, then having to save while defending every lane of the racetrack, since, well, this is a wide racetrack.
And Lorenzo, what are you seeing from these drivers? You've been following the strategy all over the course of the night so far, and it's playing out in a fuel mileage race, almost like it's a classic IndyCar race.
It's a classic IndyCar race. Basically, everybody on 14 laps so far. If they make it to the 39 that we have to go in this race, it's going to be an interesting one to say the least. But the problem is, the drivers who have a lap extra are Alex Venderson, Mike Rasmus, and Bradley Saxondero, 16 laps.
Sorry, I'm going to cut you off there, Lorenzo. Technically, they don't. That's just by virtue, I think, of where their their pit box is, remember.
True.
So they all have the same amount of fuel. It's just that because Van der Sande, for example, started near the tail end of the field, he will be scored as having come down a lap earlier. Here we go. It's getting feistier and feistier out front. Malechka has backed off the pace very slightly. I think he is being a little bit conservative on the fuel. Kinsella looking inside of Ryan Otis as he tries to work himself into the top 4. Van der Sande also looking aggressive and feisty to the inside of Connor Harrington. Of course, for Van der Sande, we saw him do something similar to this in the Lionheart Speedway Series, Justin, where he took a car for, what was it, 70-odd laps at, I think it was Kansas Speedway?
You're talking about when it comes to Van der Sande, I believe?
Yes. Kentucky
it was.
Excuse me. Yes.
45 each pit stop window he went in that race. And that was the longest out of anybody, all those stints, and he ran out of gas down the final straightaway and still won the race by a few seconds. That's how tight it was in that circumstance. So I wouldn't be shocked to see it come down to that type of theatrics if this continues.
24 to go. Van der Sande has cycled to the race lead, potentially a little bit early if you ask me right now, because it's a long way to go from here to the end, but he has been one of the better cars in fuel mileage. So was Phil Krause, to be completely honest. It can go any way at this point in time, Lorenzo, and that's what's making this deciding race of the form book. This is where things stop. We head into the off-season. We don't know what anything's going to look like till March of next year when we get going for 2022 again. This is the final statement for everyone in 2021.
Yeah, make sure you're finishing on a strong note for everybody. It's going to be an interesting one. I like what Krause is doing. He's using Connor Harrington as a way to save fuel, slingshot, switch back to the lead a few spots, but now hanging back a little bit more. Just let Venderson be the hair. Let him waste the more fuel right now. What he's doing with this one is bringing a little bit both Kinsella and Malechka now into the mix because they got close now on Otis' back wing.
Van der Sande is punching the hole in the air that everyone else is following through. On debut, he's worked himself up 29 positions to lead the race right now. Coming into the closing stages, it is anyone's game. Matt Taylor, who got really caught out by that second caution of the race, Justin, has managed to work himself back up into the top 7. Don't count out Taylor in that number 8 car either.
And it would be a good bounce back for Taylor, who has been fighting a lot in this race when it comes to some of the battles, and is really, for the most part, not been having too many friends to work with when it comes to this race. So I'm curious if Taylor's going to have enough here. The problem's going to be just getting the right position, but also just trying to avoid the aero wash. Mike Rasmus, I think, has just said it's go time for him because he just floated hard for the bottom.
Jerking himself up and down the track. Finds the outside line is where he wants to be. Another car that's up 21 positions. A big mover has been that 68 as he carries his momentum the long way around on Matt Taylor. He's up into 7th. Van der Sande has been shuffled back down into 3rd position now. Might not be the worst place in the world. Malechka the 3rd, really ripping the outside line. Private label Team Hyper might have also decided it's go time here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, but also he had to play with the fine margins whenever Alex got overtaken because he got some dirty air from Connor Harrington going to the outside of turn number 2. Had to lift off the gas to avoid that dirty air and lost a little bit of ground and has to claw up and get closer again to both drivers. So it's kind of a little bit of a reset to what has been going on for the past few laps.
This is tense. The gap is building between Krause and Van der Sande, almost 4 tenths and counting. Here comes Mike Rasmus, continues to duck and dive through the field. Now to the inside, he looks on Andrew Kinsella.
Line this time. Having to back off of it hard, though, to the corner. Only 204 in the corner apex. Rasmus just not able to get the good run off the corner. At the bottom, essentially from what I've seen throughout the night so far, if you clear by the apex, similar to that of a stock car, you can complete the pass. But if you're still side by side on the exit, the driver usually on the higher line usually prevails.
Remember, this is the track that's got a history, a legacy of close photo finishes coming to the line. We've seen some incredible ones, Season 7, Season 8, Season 5, all...
Anderson in the wall.
Oh no! That's going to be crucial then for the number 08 car.
Yeah, he got Connor Harrington's dirty air going to the outside line. Connor just gave him extra air going to the outside of turn number 2. Grazed the wall, the number 08, and lost it a little bit of ground. Does he have damage considerate enough to lose ground? I don't think he has.
Looks like it was just momentum that was lost because the speed is there. The speed to the outside for Alexander Van der Sat. It's bold, it's brave, but it doesn't matter for now. Next time around is 15 miles to go. Malechka the third is side by side with Andrew Kinsella for 5th on back as they work themselves down the back straightaway. The Canadian dives down to the inside, but I don't think he's going to be able to wash up the track and clear himself on Malechka the third. He's going to try. Almost contact between the two of them.
A little bit dicey there, and that could cost them some time, but it's 3 wide for the race lead.
Van der Sat to the inside. We said he was going to be bold, and he's going to rip away the race lead from Private Label Team Hype. Here comes Kraus with the momentum, though.
And this is all while Luis Gonzalez Nunez has had to pull his car into the garage area because he crashed prior to the leaders coming through. He's off the track, though. Let's keep fighting.
Let's take a look at what happened then to him, because, you can see significant damage, and it's by himself, so surely he's gotten up into the wall. That was a car for company. I think maybe got a little bit spooked at Luis Gonzalez Nunez. That's the story of his year, not just here in the IndyCar Series, Justin, but across of Lionheart competition.
That happens any sooner, or any later, I should rather say. We're talking about a crazy restart. Now, these drivers are settling back down after seeing that. All of them trying to save tires. Ryan Otis to the wall.
Has he gotten away with that one? They're all flirting with disaster. Kinsella.
Malechka too.
Kinsella will take advantage, potentially Malechka in the wall. He'll make it 3 abreast as Razmas looks to the inside as well. It's getting crazy here, Lorenzo.
It's getting a little bit scary to look at it because we're playing with yellow flag land over here. As Otis got the dirty air, Malechka actually got his dirty air from Otis on the outside of turn number 4. Grazed the wall with the back right, but still kept it on track. And they're still racing hard, and we're not even 10 laps to go.
Yeah, we still plenty of time for things to be decided. Are we on the course for another photo finish, as it's going to be Phil Kraus this time to the inside of Van der Sat? My question still is, Justin, have the leaders saved enough fuel?
That's what I'm nervous about right now, because they're still picking up the tempo a little bit to the 224, 226 mile per hour range, even with the swapping such as right here. But for some of the air drivers, they've been letting it roll a little bit more, I've noticed, for some of these competitors. For the drivers who may be confident of fuel towards the back, if they can get close enough, don't be shocked to see them start to push 11 to go. The tough part for them is Kinsella's losing the draft.
Ryan Otis is starting to slip back very slightly, so I'd wonder if there is damage as he battles with Matt Taylor down on his inside line. Kinsella isn't too far behind. He's 4/10 off Connor Harrington, so still within drafting range. Razmas is right behind him. Malechka's closing as they come down into turn 4, all searching for just that little bit of clean air, still leading the way. Alexander Van der Sat from Phil Kraus, Connor Harrington, Andrew Kinsella, Mike Razmas. 10 laps to go in 2021. And Lorenzo, I know you're getting worried.
I'm getting very worried, not because of fuel, it's because how they are driving against one another. It's like they're driving the final lap of a race, which is insane for me to think. As Kraus goes back into the lead, Connor is trying to get the run, but it's going to be Van der Sat. He's going to dive down on the inside, regain the lead once again, and we still don't know if they actually have fuel towards the end of the race.
Well, we'll find out soon. The answers will present themselves on the racetrack. Gap beginning to increase between Harrington and Kinsella, 3rd and 4th position. Might be a 3-horse fight here, Justin, as Connor Harrington looks to try and go around the outside, but gets boxed in by Van der Sat.
This is going to be the tough part. Two teammates potentially work together a little bit here. Connor Harrington with a very bad run at a turn 2, though. Van de Sant now getting helped out. This is now getting to slingshot territory when it comes to the tires.
Slinging his way to the race lead, 2/10 clear for Alexander Van de Sant, searching for victory on debut in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Kraus comes back at him. Harrington just a little bit too far behind. Might be a 2-horse race, but Harrington will slip it down to the inside, try and wash up the track to cut off Van de Sant. Just about able to do so, but Van de Sant jinks back to the inside line and looks for the race lead once more.
What a race for Van de Sant so far. This is the race of his year. Even stronger when it comes to the fuel save race. He's trying to do this on raw pace and skill. Here we go again with 7 to go, again 3 wide.
Harrington down on the inside line. Can he wash up the track once more? Kraus is pinching Van de Sant on the entry to the corner, not letting Van de Sant turn into the corner, so it's going to mean Harrington, new race leader. It's going to come down to the wire here, and I think for the private label team hype, they're going to try and work together to stop the run from Van de Sant. Harrington tries to cover him up, but Van de Sant with the momentum back to the race lead.
This is not over yet, not even close with 6 to go. And keep in mind, Kinsella, despite all of this, is starting to lose even more time. He's picking it back up a bit down the stretch, but in the corners, not so much. Again, 3 wide. Again, a private label team hype late arc.
And Van de Sant knows that he's got to try and diamond the corner a little bit more. That's what he does on the exit of turn number 2. To the inside, Van de Sant once more builds up the momentum and should have a nose in front heading down into turn 3. Lorenzo, who are you thinking's going to win here?
I'm not going to comment, because if I do, I'm going to kill someone.
Fair enough, fair enough. 3 abreast at the line. It was Van de Sant with the nose in front. Harrington's the one who's going to get cut off now. There we go. There's the team game. Kraus feeds the dirty air to Van de Sant. He's going to wash up the track. He's going to build up that momentum all over again, Justin.
It's pretty clear right now. They want either Kraus or Harrington to take the victory. Want it between them. But Van de Sant, he wants to break this party up and then some. He's proven he knows how to drive this about. It's just a matter of setting it up right. Be smart. If he chooses the wrong line, this could be costly. Now it's going to take a couple laps to regroup here.
4 to go, 8 miles left in this 2021 season. Remember, a caution with 3 to go would end the race, would end the season. But what a race it's been. We survived 490 odd miles with just 3 cautions to speak of. Can we get to the end? Can we get to the checkered without any more interventions from the caution car? Van de Sant rips the outside line. He's going to build the momentum up on Phil Kraus. Harrington leads with 3 laps, 6 miles to go. Which way does Van de Sant need to go? He'll go to the outside line. Harrington blocks him off.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't like that move at all. That was close to being a major wreck there, right at the point of no return. You cannot do that right now.
Need to be careful. Need to make sure you keep your head screwed on at this point in time, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky as now Kraus with the blocking on the outside of turn number 3. Final lap is about to go on the next lap.
2 to go. Van de Sant getting boxed out by the teammates. For Kraus, he cannot afford to just play defense here because he might open himself up to come under even further fire from Alexander Van de Sant. Lap traffic might play a factor.
Regni said he's staying up top. This could be a major impact for turn 3, though, and a chance for Harrington to build up a buffer. Will Van de Sant use the lap car to pick? He gets blocked to the bottom.
Little bit of contact, but Van de Sant holds onto his car. He'll wash up the track. Harrington is now 4/10 clear in the race lead, Justin. White flag in the air.
Van de Sant's not going to be happy. He's got endpoint damage from that hit. The team game coming into play a little bit there. The aggressiveness coming into the play there. But now it's the matter of, will Kraus have enough time to get back to Connor Harrington?
Out into turn 3. The private label team cars work, running 1 and 2 in what has been an extraordinary team campaign for Connor Harrington. In any other year, he'd be champion. But out of turn 4, for the final time in 2021, Connor Harrington wins the SimXperience Race for the championship. Phil Kraus makes it a private label team hype 1 and 2. And Alexander Van de Sant on Lionheart IndyCar Series debut finishes on the podium. An incredible drive from the tail end of the field. What a race to close things off in 2021, Justin. Epitomizes the racing that we've seen from the start of March to the middle of December, where really, it's been fantastic. First year on racespottv, new faces, new names, ultimately still one constant. Adam Blocker, four-time Lionheart IndyCar Series champion.
An incredible race to close off the campaign for Lionheart IndyCar Series competition. Fireworks definitely went off, and I'm not just talking about the ones down the back straight away. Talking about the ones in that battle for the race victory. Traffic was a major factor when it came to how things played out there, yes. But Connor Harrington, he played things out very well. Took advantage of the caution flag, quickly charged up front, tried to control the tempo, and did with Philip Rouse. And in the end, he's the one who celebrates victory in a Triple Crown race. Keep in mind, just the third victory for Harrington this season total.
It was close between Van der Sant, between Kraus and Harrington. There will be some questions asked as to some of the blocks that Harrington and Kraus threw the way of Van der Sant, but ultimately, what a debut as well for Alexander Van der Sant. He will be one to watch in 2022, hopefully making the full step up into the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Here's a look at the race results then. After 500 miles of racing, Harrington and Kraus making a private label team at 1 and 2. Van der Sant, what a drive to make it into third. Newly minted Adrenaline Powerslide driver as well for Alexander Van der Sant. His teammate Andrew Kinsella, defending race winner, completes the 2021 season in fourth with Mike Razmas. A great drive in the closing stages to secure a top 5 finish. Matt Taylor had to recover after being put down to the tail end of the order during our second caution of the evening. He comes home across the line in 6th with Joshua Chin 7th, Joe Branch 8th, Ryan Otis 9th, Robert Malechka 3rd. At one point, it looked like a potential victory, an odds-on victory for Malechka 3rd, ends in a top 10 to round out the year. Henry Bennett in 11th with Jason Brophy 12th. The pole position for Henry Bennett didn't go his way, but at least he secures Rookie of the Year honors, I should say, with that 11th place finish. The Muscle Man in 13th with Stefan Laukamp 14th. Brian Beard in 15th with Chris Fowler 16th. Then debutants with Bradley Sexton, Matthias Kraus. Great drives from them to finish on the lead lap. Samuel Ryman, Caleb Bensey, one lap down through the top 20 with Matt Houston 21st, Mike Rigney 22nd, James Grahula 23rd. Then we get to the cars mixed up in troubles. They include Luis Gonzalez, Nunez, Tyler Groff, Aaron Morgan, Adam Frazier, Barrett Rolfe, Brian Carey, and Tony Showen, with 3 final cars not making it to the end. Ricky Hardin, Scott Holmes, and Alexis Newsom. That was a look top to bottom at your Car Knox race results. And well, what a way to close off 2021 and the 9th season of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Still got plenty of things to come here as we dive our way into the Lionheart HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. Well, we've got a couple of moments here before we can dive our way into the awards show and in towards HyperX victory lane. And so, guys, let's just recap what a race it was to close out this 2021 season. I mean, Justin, incredible. Just 3 cautions on the day to close out the year. Some great green flag running. Pit strategy, always interesting. Fuel mileage to the end. But it was almost a photo finish for another season finale here at the Auto Club Speedway.
Yeah, it's a what if when it comes to how things fared out with 2 laps to go. If it wasn't for some of the traffic down the backstretch with the white flag lap approaching, we may have seen even crazier finish than what we just seen. It was exciting throughout, especially after the late race caution. But the main thing to consider is Robert Malechka III. It might be the question of what if in his regard, because if it wasn't for those cautions, he was looking in a very good spot to dominate the race, and then the cautions breed cautions started to fare out and break on in.
And started at the start of March. Crazy how long ago that feels, Lorenzo, but really a roller coaster ride for all of the drivers, for the league admins as well. And as we head into our post-season award show, it's going to be interesting to think about now what 2022 holds in store for us.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy because I think the schedule is going to be a very interesting one to watch. We had, again, a great mix of long ovals, short ovals with road races that changed the complexity of the championship. I think the readiness of the drivers was on top level. And with some new cars coming to the iRacing schedule, maybe in this build or the next one, could spice up a few things in the calendar that makes us very excited to see what 22 has in store.
Well, we're just waiting for all the drivers to make their way into the RaceSpottv commentary booth so we can get to our HyperX post-race show. But at least for now, let's talk to our race winner here today, Connor Harrington, standing by with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed, Connor, you end up coming away with the victory tonight. 23 laps led. It was an interesting final 40 laps or so of this one. How would you describe that battle for the race win between you, Philip Kraus, and Alexander Van de Sande?
Well, Justin, I'll tell you what, it really helps when you have a great teammate like Philip Kraus there to help you out. We kind of played the team game there, had to feed Alex some dirty air, which, is not the most fun thing to do, but that's what we had to do to get the win tonight. We were really close on fuel there, so we needed to save, we probably need to save almost a gallon worth of fuel to make it to the end. So we were trying to ride and work on it, and we ended up playing it right. And I really have to thank Phil for being a great teammate, because without him, there's no chance I win this race.
Now tonight as well, you have to consider that the cautions did help in your case in terms of that private label team hype contingency, because prior to the cautions, you had Robert Belechter third leading by as much as 6 seconds. What was kind of the thought process once the cautions started coming in, completely compressing the field again?
Well, yeah, Robert had a rocket ship. I think I want to know what he had for setting, because nobody was touching him tonight. He was even swap drafting, I think, with the damaged car, and he was just pulling away from everybody. So I guess we just we finally got a break this year. That's kind of been like the story is, we've had a really great year, but we haven't necessarily caught as many breaks as we should. We finally caught one tonight that allowed us to cycle to the front.
Now, in the end now, tonight, this closes out what was an impressive drive, an impressive season for Private Label Team Hype as a whole and yourself. Second of the driver standings, team championship victory, but now it's a Triple Crown victory to cap things off. What's the approach now going to be like for you guys in 2022? Because, of course, Philip Kraus came in about the halfway portion of the season. What else is planned for your grouping? Will Philip, say, have a friend to race with?
Yeah, some things are up in the air. Some work schedules are up in the air right now. I do have to say congratulations to Adam. Adam had an all-time season. The run that he went on in the middle of the year was ridiculous, and you just couldn't beat him. To finish second, I think I went and I looked. I think I had statistically the second best season of Lionheart ever, and the only person that beat me was Adam. So Adam definitely well earned that, and congratulations to him. It would have been fun to race him tonight. It's a bummer that he wasn't here, but for us for next year, we've got a lot going on. We have our endurance programs growing. Our NASCAR guys, Jay has won a team championship too. So, it'll be nice to have a little bit of an off-season break here, but we'll be ready to come back in 2022.
See how things fare out, and I'm curious on some of those mentioned, because those are some developments we haven't seen talked about too much yet. We'll see how things play out for you. Congratulations on the victory tonight for you and your team.
Yep, thank you guys very much.
Once again, Connor Harrington coming home with a Triple Crown victory to end the year.
And we'll get the postseason award show underway in just a couple of moments' time. Just getting everything lined up and ready. Unfortunately, no Adam Blocker to sit with us and to celebrate the monumental year that he's had. And really, Justin, I mean, what can you say? The hyperbole just doesn't go high enough for the campaign he's had. Hasn't finished outside of the top 5 since September of 2020, averaging a podium in 2021 in a season where the Lionheart IndyCar Series has never been more competitive.
Yeah, he just was dominant from the get-go. Won almost half the races this season. In all the races that counted towards his points totals, ended up finishing inside the top 5, as mentioned. It was difficult to keep up with him. He had the raw speed, and just with the experience he has, he just knows when to build a run. at some of the racetracks to go for the winning move. He knows when he needs to run away. He knows when he needs to save. It's going to be difficult to take that crown away from Adam Blocker from this point forward.
Well, we'll get to the series organizers in a couple of moments' time, just getting ready to dial them in and talk to our various awards winners. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to announce the Oval Championship presented by HyperX. The points are so close that we don't have a confirmed winner there. Of course, the double points here really would have shaken things up, so we'll get that in hopefully a couple moments time. A reminder as well, you can follow along with all things Lionheart across of social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, your home for Lionheart news. ESTV has you covered for all your esports needs, while RaceSpotTV has your sim racing action covered. Follow us across the social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with some of the great sim racing series that we get to cover. Even though the IndyCar Series has come to a close for 2021, in a couple of Mondays' time we will pick back up with our coverage of the official iRacing IndyCar Open Series, so join us on Monday night for all of the action. Lorenzo, let's get your thoughts as well while we get ready to get into the postseason awards show. What a year it's been. We've had you join us for a number of the races, a lot of the road course races as well. Competition level in this series is really sky high.
It's really sky high. It's one of the best in the service, and I love to maybe in the future race it once again. And let's see if what 22 has for us in store, because if it was a banger in 2021, I can't wait for 2022.
Some interesting additions to the schedule, tentative additions we should say, the likes of Suzuka being added to the roster. We've also got the likes of the Nashville Super Speedway that are going to be added to the schedule. Plenty of intriguing things, and don't forget as well, we have one more race in the Lionheart Retro Series before we wrap things up in 2021 for Lionheart competition. In a couple of weeks' time, we will head back here to the Auto Club Speedway to close off the 2021 year. 3 drivers have a chance of winning the championship. Well, it is time then to head into that HyperX Awards show. I believe we do have both George Anzaldo and Tyler Graf standing by, along with Chris Fowler. And George, unfortunately, Adam Blocker is not here to accept his award as your season champion, 4-time series champion, but you can still announce him as the champion and talk to all the viewers about what he's going to win here in 2021.
Absolutely. On behalf of myself, the entire administration team, and league sponsors, I want to congratulate Adam Blocker on another fantastic season. He has certainly left his mark on the series and proven why he's deserving of this title. Again, I'd like to congratulate Adam Blocker, our 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Buttkicker champion. Congratulations,
Hey, how's
Adam.
it going?
Well, Adam Blocker has joined us here today, and Adam, you've just been announced as the champion. Of course, you're not racing at home today. You're instead ready to go testing in the NTT IndyCar Series. What a season it's been for you, though.
Yeah, I just want to thank George and all the admins for putting on the season. Definitely, probably the most competitive season in Lionheart history. As you can see, like all the road course races this year, pretty much were close contests, and a lot of the ovals as well. Didn't get a chance to watch tonight's race, but I'm sure it was good, just like the rest of the races. Really just want to thank everybody in the field for making it a great competition and really fun to race in. Want to thank Kerry Bettenhausen for letting me use his rig in Indy. That was huge. Those 2 races, the points from those races allowed me to win the championship for sure. Just everyone, like all the sponsors like Espo Designs for giving me a free helmet design for last season's championship. It looks awesome, and it was cool to wear that for the whole season. And yeah, just all the other sponsors and George and everybody on the admin team for making it happen, and obviously everybody on Power Slide for all the support throughout the season as well. It's been really awesome.
So there is your 2021 champion presented by Buttkicker, Adam Blocker. And now ready to hand out the P2 in the championship award. Back to George Anzaldo.
Awesome. So everyone at Lionheart once again would like to congratulate Connor Harrington for a well-fought season. You certainly kept things interesting all year long. Congratulations on P2 and our Drivers' Championship. Nice job.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Really, I have to thank first and foremost Ty Stover and Tommy Milner for giving me a call last year during the off season, and from nothing came something amazing. Josh Chin, Jason Brophy, Phil Kraus were phenomenal teammates all year. Without them, really, this wouldn't have been possible. They were a great resource to lean on all year. And just thank you to our partners at Private Label, Ethica Clothing, Tomahawk Shades. They've been great partners, and we hope to keep everything moving on to 2022. So thank you guys very much. And thank you to HyperX and Lionheart and buttkicker and RaceSpot. The coverage that we get is second to none. So thank you guys very much.
So that was Connor Harrington, second in the championship. And third in the championship went to a rookie, Henry Bennett, who's had some late nights racing in Lionheart competition. But third place in the championship, George, what an honor to get in his debut season.
Oh, absolutely. We've been delighted to have Henry joining us this year in 2021, and it's been fantastic. 22 race season is no easy task for our drivers. Henry, you've certainly proven your ability to compete amongst some very tough competition, and for this, everyone at Lionheart would like to congratulate you on your podium finish in our Drivers' Championship. So congratulations, Henry. Nice job.
Thanks, George. It's an honour to finish third amongst such illustrious competition.
So that is P3 in the championship to the Brit Henry Bennett. Next up, it's a slightly different award, one that goes to one of the drivers that adds to the community atmosphere around the Lionheart Racing Series the most. So we are ready now for George and Zalda to present the Driver of the Year, presented by Buttkicker.
Thank you, Arjuna. It's well known that in racing in any form naturally creates a close bond amongst its competitors. Lionheart is certainly no exception to this. Fierce competition, such as what is seen in our series, can certainly bring out emotions that can challenge any driver's sportsmanship. We're here to recognize and celebrate a driver who not only has shown a great deal of respect to his fellow competitors, but also understands that at Lionheart we are family, always representing the league in a positive manner and always an example of what makes Lionheart so very special. We also want to recognize that this driver's contributions to the league for several years has given so much of his time and energy into helping the league grow. The effort has been pivotal in making Lionheart better for everyone involved. For this and so much more, I would like to announce and congratulate Tyler Graff as Lionheart's 2021 Driver of the Year. Congratulations, Tyler.
Wow. Thank you. I could see why you asked me to leave my stream running. Wow, I really don't know what to say, other than, this league is a second home for me. I basically had the worst day of my life about a year ago, and the guys in this league kind of gathered around to make sure my fiance and I were able to keep going, and I don't know, that just, I give back what I can because this league means so much to me, and these guys here became my best friends, and I don't know what to say. I'm going to start getting choked up here, but thank you. Thank you. I don't really know what to say.
Congratulations, Tyler.
So Tyler Graff, who does a lot of the graphics works behind what goes on for the Lionheart Racing Series, your Lionheart Driver of the Year. And we welcome back the absent Adam Blocker to accept the Road Championship presented by SimXperience.
Adam, again, you really have shown a very dominant presence on both the oval and the road, but we're here to honor you and congratulate your progress and your accomplishments on the road. You really, I felt dominated these championships by your prowess as a strong road course driver, and as well, you've helped the competition grow by helping our members become better at road racing. So I'm really honored to present this Road Championship Award, which is presented by SimXperience. Congratulations, Adam. Great job.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, the racing on road was much better this year than every other season. Partially, iRacing's tire compounds, the reds and the blacks really add an extra element to all of our races. And you combine that, with guys like Ryan Otis, Josh Chin, Connor Harrington, all the guys that made the road races really cool. Like, there were just several road races this year where they were super memorable, and I love, going back and watching them occasionally. They're just, some really good racing, and yeah, definitely a season I'll remember for a long time.
Been very exciting to watch you, Adam. Congratulations again.
So Road Championship goes to Adam Blocker, but by virtue of missing this third Triple Crown of the year, not only did Adam Blocker miss out on the opportunity to become the first driver to win all 3 Triple Crown events in a calendar year, but he is not your Triple Crown champion. That is ready to be awarded out by George Anzaldo. Oh, excuse me, by Chris Fowler.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Our Triple Crown Championship presented by Buttkicker. Our Triple Crown this year consisted of the Indy 500, our Michigan Speedway race, and this last race we just did at Auto Club. We had some amazing racing this year, but congratulations to Connor Harrington on being the Triple Crown Championship. You'll get a few things from SimXperience and a pair of gloves from minus 273. So congratulations, Connor.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it. Really crazy races this year in the Triple Crowns. Just lucky to survive all those. I know in the past we've had some issues, so be able to survive all 3 and get a win tonight, really great for everybody. So thank you guys very much.
So that is the Triple Crown Driver of the Year. And next up, welcoming back into the broadcast booth, not just third place in the championship, but Chris Fowler will present Henry Bennett with the Rookie of the Year presented by Buttkicker Award.
Yeah, so we got the Rookie of the Year presented by Buttkicker. We've had this year I think is the most competitive year we've had with our rookies. We had the most rookies in the season this year. It's been an absolutely competitive season. Congratulations to Henry Bennett, finishing 3rd in the championship and bringing home the Rookie of the Year. You'll get several goodies from Buttkicker, SimXperience, HyperX, and a bunch of good stuff. So congratulations, Henry, man. You had a great season.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the prizes. And really tight fight for that Rookie of the Year with Jason. So really happy.
And speaking of Jason Brophy, misses out on the Rookie of the Year award, but he is the Ironman Award presented by Carnox, the driver that completes the most miles in a season without any drops. Chris Fowler is ready to present that award.
Yep, so our next award is the Ironman Award presented by Carnox. This goes to the driver that complete the most miles, as Arjuna said. Jason, man, you've had a hell of a season. Excuse me there. But congratulations on completing the most miles and having a good season. You'll get a nice pair of gloves from minus 273. So congratulations, Jason.
Well, thank you very much. I got to complete as many laps as you can. Don't give up on the race. I think probably only a few wrecks too over the course of the season. I know Iowa and Milwaukee, but just tried to finish those out as best I could. I actually didn't realize I was in the running for it, but I never really wrecked out of a race, so thanks Lionheart and minus 273.
So that is Jason Brophy, and as we get set to award the team championship presented by HyperX, which private label Team Hype locked in a couple of weeks ago on the streets of Detroit, let's take the opportunity to welcome the 3rd member of private label Team Hype, the only one we haven't chatted to so far today, Joshua Chin, that will accept the award.
Yeah, so we got the team championship presented by HyperX. It's been a great season with these guys. They've done really well. They got 4 wins on the season. Just been competitive every single race. They cooperated very well as a team, worked together every race this year. So congratulations to private label Team Hype on the team championship. You guys will get some nice stuff from HyperX. So congratulations.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. I got to thank Ty and Connor and everyone at the team, kind of taking a chance, bringing us in and having us run the whole season with them. It's worked out really well. Didn't quite get the result I wanted. But Jason did really good for a season, and Connor had his best Lionheart season, and kind of had someone with an anomaly season beat him for the championship. So I can't complain about it too much. It was a great run all year, basically led from start to finish, and just got solid points in. I don't remember what the final margin is, but it was quite a bit, and I'm really proud of the performance that we put all year to make sure that happened and secure it for private label Team Hype.
A great performance from the private label Team Hype machine. And now on to the Cleanest Driver Award presented by Graphics. Tyler Groff is ready to present that award.
Yeah, the Cleanest Driver of the Year this year. I don't think it's really a surprise to anybody. This dude is like the picture of consistency when it comes to Lionheart and staying clean, and just overall good dude too. The Cleanest Driver Award this year goes to Ryan Otis. He'll get a HyperX keyboard, headset, and a pair of minus 273 gloves.
Oh wow, thank you. Thanks, Tyler. Geez, what a year. First I gotta say, Adam just killed it. that guy is just untouchable. Just seeing the speed and the consistency that he brings, like week in and week out, is pretty inspiring, really. And it's definitely pushed me to try to improve and to try to understand the car better. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't thank my wonderful wife, Lacey, for taking care of the kids during race nights. I live on the West Coast, so these races happen kind of near bedtime for the little ones. So there's no way I'd be able to do any of this stuff without her help. So that's been key for sure. And really, I just got to thank George and Mark Cohn and the whole admin team, really for just the unbelievable work that they put in, really week after week for the whole year for all 3 of these series. It really is just amazing to see the dedication that these guys have.
One final award to hand out, and it is the Turning Point Award, the driver that has, let's be honest, the roughest start to the year, but then turns it around in the second half of the year, and Tyler Groff is ready to hand that out.
Yep, so this year's Turning Point Award, this driver, he's honestly, I said Ryan was the face of consistency, but you've given me the other guy that's also one of the faces of consistency in this league, and if he's turned around from already being good, then the second half of his year had to be pretty dang good too. The winner of this award is Andrew Kinsella. He'll get a pair of -273 gloves.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tyler. Definitely, the year did not start out the way that we wanted. A couple of DNFs in the first couple of races, and we were like P30 in the championship at one point, and worked my way back through the field, and didn't quite have enough to take it from Henry there at the end. If I'd gotten one more position, we might have been able to snatch it from Henry. But overall, from where we started to where we finished, definitely really excited about how this season went down, and finished on a strong note there. And just like to thank everyone at Adrenaline and Adrenaline Power Slide. Especially, we got a new guy coming in with Alex Vandesant. We worked so well together in the race today. Thanks to sponsors hyperx, -273 for the gloves that I'm getting. Thanks to the rest of the admin team, and of course thanks to RaceSpot for putting on these fabulous broadcasts all year, and putting up with all the requests and the last minute changes that we've thrown at them. They've been a great partner for us, so big shout out to everyone at RaceSpot as well.
And before we say goodbye to this post-season award show, before we say goodbye to George and Zaldo as well, George, this doesn't happen without the support of all the fabulous partners. Shout out everyone here and give them their props for making this all happen.
Absolutely. Thank you once again, Arjuna. I'd like to first off thank all of our viewers for tuning in this season. Our plans are in motion for our upcoming 2022 season, and we hope you continue supporting our series. On behalf of the entire administration team and our drivers, we'd like to thank HyperX for their continued support of our organization, as well as outfitting our drivers with their amazing gear. Thanks to Buttkicker for their support as the title sponsor to our IndyCar Series, and we're happy to announce their return as the title sponsor for 2022. We'd like to thank SimXperience, -273, Carnox, Graphics Esports, and all of our 2021 sponsors for their support and contributions to the Lionheart Racing Series. Finally, a huge thanks to everyone at RaceSpottv for providing all of our live race coverage, and ESTV for helping introduce our events to the global esports community. See you all again in March at Homestead. Thank you once again. It's been another great year. Take care, everybody.
It's been an incredible ride that started in the Sunshine State. We crisscrossed not just across the US, but across the globe as well, Justin. What a way to finish things off. And really, it's now a bit sad that we're going to have a couple of weeks where, yes, we got the Retro Series, but until the start of March, no Lionheart competition to be thinking about.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens in the offseason, especially since we are just a few days away, keep in mind, from a new iRacing build on top of things, Arjuna. So in our words, there could be a lot on the horizon. It will be interesting which drivers get a hold of what they need to do in 2022. Which drivers will carry momentum from this season. And also which drivers improve in the offseason, as well as the other competitors who may come into play for some of the various races. I can't wait to see how 2022 fares out, but it's going to be interesting which teams and drivers end up being in contention for next year.
And Lorenzo, from your viewpoint as well, I mean, some new faces that made their debut here today. Plenty of exciting things to be thinking about in terms of returning drivers as well. Adam Blocker hopefully will still have a full season campaign. Yes, he'll still have his real world responsibilities to be managing, and hopefully he can figure out the situation to share some rigs back in the month of May again. So much excitement, and so much intrigue as to how things will shake up with new additions to the schedule, as well as potentially some returning favorites.
Yeah, because they still need to decide who's going to be in the whole grid. I'll be very honest, looking at this race and the races prior, it makes me want to pick myself up and get back on the rig again and try to drive, maybe get into the next year. But I don't have the skills to match them, to be very honest with you guys. But it's been a great season. Alex Vanderson should be a guy we should be looking for 2022. His debut was something to be noticing quite well enough. And the other drivers in 2022 keep going strong and enjoy the off season because the new build is coming.
It's an exciting time for iRacing. So many new things on the horizon. But for now, it's time to wave goodbye to the Lionheart IndyCar Series in 2021. Still plenty of excitement for Lionheart Racing competition, though. In a couple of weeks' time, the Lionheart Retro Series will break out the Lotus 79s here at the Action City, the Auto Club Speedway, for a championship showdown where 3 drivers still have a chance. Join us for the HyperX Championship 250 in 11 days' time, the 16th of December. The action is live, 10:35 p.m. Eastern, 7:35 p.m. Pacific. You don't want to miss any of it. Matt Taylor versus Aaron Morgan versus Mike Rasmas. Those Lotus 79s sure know how to put on a show. A reminder as well that even in the off-season, you can keep abreast of all the latest ongoing news in the Lionheart Racing Series by heading to social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Lionheart Series has you covered, while ESTV has your esports needs done and dusted. For all things RaceSpotTV, well, look no further than social media. But for all things sim racing, make sure to subscribe to us by hitting that red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series that we get to cover. The story of 2021, though, has been Adam Blocker is inevitable. He has won an extraordinary number of races. He's averaged a podium in 2021. Hasn't finished outside of the top 5 since September of 2020, and he is now a 4-time Lionheart champion. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for Dougie Beard doing our camera packs, for Hugo Luis, for Tyler Maxson working on production across of the season, for my co-commentators Lorenzo Bonder and Justin Prince, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. We'll see you in 2022. Congratulations to Adam Blocker, a 4-time Lionheart IndyCar Series champion.